The room is dark, and the world outside is quiet. The only sound should be the gentle rhythm of your own breathing, a soft tide washing you toward the shores of sleep. But for you, the silence is a canvas, and your mind paints upon it with colors of the past. A conversation from years ago plays on a loop. A face you wish you could forget appears with perfect clarity. A feeling of falling, a sharp word, a door that closed and never reopened. Your body is still, lying in bed, but your mind is running a marathon through a landscape of old wounds. You reach for your phone. Its cold blue light, a temporary distraction from the storm within. You scroll through the lives of others, a cascade of curated happiness and fleeting outrage. But it only hollows you out more, making your own quiet chaos feel more profound, more isolated. You are not alone in this feeling. In a world that screams for our attention, that demands constant motion, and celebrates a superficial strength, we are rarely taught what to do with our pain. We are told to move on, to get over it, to be resilient. But these words, often spoken with good intentions, can feel like a dismissal of the very real weight we carry. They suggest that our inability to simply forget is a personal failure. And so, the wounds are not healed. They are buried. They become ghosts that live in the architecture of our being, influencing our choices, shaping our fears, and whispering to us in the quietest hours of the night. They are the unseen reason for the chronic tension in your shoulders, for the anxiety that bubbles up without a clear cause, for the profound exhaustion that sleep never seems to touch. But what if there was another way? A way that does not involve fighting the ghosts or running from them. A way that is gentle, patient, and deeply compassionate. A path that has been walked for over 2,500 years, not as a religion of conversion, but as a practical science of the mind, an art of living and healing. It begins with the one thing that has been with you every moment of your life, the one thing you can always return to, your breath. We often think of the breath as a simple, automatic function of the body, but it is so much more. It is an anchor in the turbulent sea of thought. It is the bridge between your mind and your body. It is a sacred space, a refuge that is always available, right here, right now. This journey is an invitation to come home to that refuge, to learn to sleep not by escaping your inner world, but by transforming it, one conscious, gentle breath at a time. It is a journey to heal, not by forgetting the past, but by changing your relationship to it, and in doing so, to finally, truly find peace. To begin the work of healing, we must first learn to see the wound. Unlike a cut on the skin or a broken bone, an emotional wound leaves no visible mark. There is no scar for others to see, no bandage to signify a place of tenderness. These are the unseen injuries, the quiet echoes that reverberate through the chambers of our lives long after the initial event has passed. Think of a vast, silent canyon. A single, sharp sound is made, and for a moment, it seems to be over. But then, the echo returns, softer, but still clear, and then again and again, bouncing off the canyon walls, the sound changing, distorting, becoming a part of the landscape itself. Emotional trauma is like this echo. It is not just the initial sound, the event itself. It is the persistent reverberation, the way the energy of that moment continues to live within our nervous system, within our very selves. We have a narrow view of what constitutes a trauma. We tend to reserve the word for catastrophic events, for wars, for major accidents, for moments of profound violence or loss. And these are, without question, deeply wounding. But this definition is too small. It leaves too many of us feeling that our own pain is not valid, not bad enough to be taken seriously. The wisdom of this path teaches us to look deeper, to recognize that a wound can also be formed by 1,000 smaller cuts, repeated over time. The constant criticism from a parent that slowly erodes a child's sense of self-worth, the toxic work environment where anxiety is a daily companion, the slow, painful dissolution of a relationship that leaves behind a residue of betrayal and failure. These are the subtle, cumulative traumas. They are the steady drip of water that eventually wears away the hardest stone, leaving us feeling brittle, anxious, and depleted, often without being able to point to a single dramatic cause. Whether the wound came from a single, shattering blow or 1,000 smaller hurts, its signature is the same. It is a lingering state of dysregulation. It is a sense that the world is not a safe place, that we are not safe in our own skin. And where does this feeling live? The mind, in its cleverness, may try to forget. It may build walls around a memory, It may bury the story so deep we can barely recall the details, but the body does not have this luxury. The body remembers everything. The body keeps the score. The tension you carry in your jaw, the one you wake up with every morning, is a memory of unspoken words, of anger held back. The chronic tightness in your shoulders and neck is a memory of carrying a burden that felt too heavy. The knot in your stomach that appears when you have to face a certain person or situation is a memory of fear. That unshakable fatigue, the kind that no amount of sleep can cure, is the physical manifestation of a nervous system that has been on high alert for far too long, like an engine that has been left running for months or years. It is exhausted. These are not random physical ailments. They are the language of your body, telling the story that your conscious mind may have tried to silence. It is a profound and compassionate language, if only we learn to listen. It is not punishing you. It is trying to communicate, trying to guide you toward the place that needs healing. When the body holds this memory of threat, it defaults to ancient survival patterns. These are not conscious choices. They are automatic, physiological reactions hardwired into our being. We often find ourselves stuck in one of three primary responses: fight, flight, or freeze. The fight response is not always physical aggression. It can be the person who is quick to anger, who is defensive, irritable, and argumentative. Their nervous system is constantly scanning for threat, interpreting neutral comments as attacks, and preparing for battle at a moment's notice. They live in a state of simmering rage or frustration, a walking embodiment of a clenched fist. Then there is flight. This is the pattern of avoidance and escape. It is the person who keeps themselves impossibly busy, their schedule packed from morning to night, leaving no empty space for a difficult feeling to surface. It is the person who cannot tolerate silence or stillness. They may turn to endless entertainment, to substances, to workaholism, to anything that will numb the inner world and keep them running from the echo of their own pain. Intimacy is terrifying because it requires standing still, being seen, and finally there is freeze. This can be the most subtle of the three. It is a state of dissociation. The person may feel disconnected from their own emotions, from their body, like they are watching their life happen from behind a pane of glass. There can be a feeling of emptiness, of numbness, of moving through the world like a ghost. This is the nervous system's ultimate safety measure. When fighting or fleeing is not possible, it shuts down, a kind of internal playing dead to survive an overwhelming experience. You may see yourself in one of these, or perhaps in a combination of them. Recognizing your pattern is not a reason for judgment, it is a vital clue, a compassionate act of self-discovery. This brings us to a crucial distinction: the difference between having a memory and re-experiencing a trauma. A healthy memory is something you can access. You are the one holding the memory. You can look at it, reflect on it, and put it away. It is an event that happened in the past. Re-experiencing a trauma is fundamentally different. When a trigger occurs, a sound, a smell, a certain tone of voice, you are not simply remembering the past. Your body and your emotional brain are reacting as if the event is happening right now. The past collapses into the present. Consider the soldier who has returned home, living in a safe and peaceful neighborhood. A car backfires down the street. For most, it is a startling, momentary noise. For him, the sound bypasses his rational brain. Instantly, his heart is pounding, his palms are sweating, adrenaline floods his system. His body is not remembering the battlefield. For a few terrifying seconds, his body is on the battlefield. This is the nature of an unhealed wound. It is not a story we tell about the past. It is a reality we continue to inhabit in the present. It is a ghost that is not content to simply haunt, but insists on reliving its death over and over again through you. To see this wound clearly, to identify its echo in our lives, to recognize how it lives in our body and directs our reactions, is the first, most courageous step. It is an act of turning toward, not away. It requires us to lay down our weapons, to stop running, to gently coax ourselves out of the frozen state. It is to look upon our own experience with the clear, steady gaze of a physician examining a patient. There is no judgment, only a desire to understand the nature of the ailment. And in this clear seeing, something remarkable begins to happen. The shame starts to dissolve. We begin to see that this wound, this echo, is not a sign that we are broken or flawed. We are simply human, carrying a human wound. And by seeing it for what it truly is, we create the space necessary for the next stage of our journey, to understand that we are not alone in this condition, that it is a fundamental truth of existence, a truth that, once accepted, holds the very key to its own transcendence. Having seen the wound, having named its presence in our lives and in our bodies, we arrive at a critical juncture. It is the place where the pain can curdle into a profound sense of isolation. A question, whispered or screamed, arises from the depths of our being. Why me? Why must I carry this weight, this sorrow, this anxiety? It feels like a personal curse, a unique failing, a sign that we have somehow been singled out by fate for a special kind of hardship. We look at the world around us and see others who appear to be navigating their lives with an ease and a lightness that feels utterly alien. This perception, this story of our own exceptional suffering, is one of the heaviest stones we carry. The first great act of healing, the first truly revolutionary step on this path, is to gently, lovingly put that stone down. It begins with understanding a fundamental truth, a truth that at first may sound stark, but which is, in reality, a profound and compassionate embrace. This is the truth of what in the ancient Pali language is called dukkha. The word dukkha is most often translated as suffering, but this single English word is too small, too blunt to capture its full meaning. It is far more nuanced, more like a spectrum of experience than a single dark color. To understand dukkha is to understand the very texture of our existence. The Buddha, in his role as the great physician, identified three distinct forms of this universal condition. The first is the one we all know intimately. It is called dukkha dukkha, the suffering of suffering. This is the obvious, undeniable pain of life. It is the pain of a physical injury, the grief of losing a loved one, the sting of betrayal, the anxiety of illness, the deep ache of loneliness. It is the raw pain of our emotional wounds. There is no denying this reality. It is the sharp, piercing quality of life that makes us recoil, that makes us say, "This hurts." The second form is more subtle. It is called viparinama dukkha, the suffering of change. This is the pain that is woven into our pleasant experiences. It is the bittersweet feeling that haunts even our happiest moments. Think of a perfect golden afternoon on a vacation. The sun is warm, the company is good, the world feels right. Yet, in the back of the mind, a tiny, quiet voice whispers, "This will end." That small shadow, that knowledge that this perfect moment is fleeting, is a form of dukkha. It is the anxiety that comes with a new love, the fear of it being lost. It is the sadness a parent feels watching their child grow, knowing that this precious stage of life is passing, never to return. It is the disappointment that inevitably follows the thrill of a new purchase or a promotion, as the initial joy fades and we are left, once again, with our ordinary selves. This form of suffering arises because we try to cling to things that are, by their very nature, impermanent. We are trying to build a permanent home on shifting sands, and the constant effort, the inevitable failure, is a source of deep, underlying stress. The third and most profound form is sankhara dukkha, the suffering of conditioned existence itself. This is the background noise of our lives. It is a pervasive, low-level sense of dissatisfaction, a feeling that something is not quite right, something is missing. It is the inherent unreliability of our moment-to-moment experience. It is the restlessness that keeps us scrolling on our phones, the impulse to seek the next distraction, the next snack, the next thrill. It is the engine of our wanting, our constant striving for something more, something else, believing that if we could just get that thing or change this situation, then we would finally be at peace. But we get the thing, and the situation changes, and the feeling of incompleteness remains. Sankhara dukkha is the friction of being alive, the fundamental unsatisfactoriness of a life driven by unconscious cravings and aversions. It is the deep exhaustion that comes from being a self that is always trying to secure itself, promote itself, and defend itself in a world that is constantly changing. To hear this for the first time can be confronting. It can sound like a dark and pessimistic view of the world, but stay with it for a moment and feel its true implication. If dukkha, in all its forms, is a universal condition of existence, then your pain is not a personal failure. Your anxiety is not a sign that you are defective. Your grief is not proof that you are weak. These experiences are not evidence of something being wrong with you. They are evidence that you are a sensitive, living, human being, participating fully in the human condition. Can you feel the immense relief in that? It is the difference between believing you are the only person on earth to have contracted a strange illness and being told by a doctor that you simply have the common cold, which everyone gets. The symptoms are still uncomfortable, but the layer of shame, fear, and isolation is lifted. You are not alone. Your pain connects you to everyone who has ever lived and ever will live. It is our shared inheritance. Accepting this truth does not mean resigning yourself to misery. It means establishing a firm, realistic foundation upon which true healing can be built. You cannot solve a problem you refuse to acknowledge. By looking squarely at the reality of dukkha, we stop fighting a battle. We can never win the battle against reality itself. There is a story of a great meditation master who had a particular glass, a beautiful, simple drinking glass. He would often speak about it to his students. He would say, "I love this glass. It is so useful. The way the light shines through it, the way it feels in my hand, the clear sound it makes when I set it down." Then he would add, "But for me, this glass is already broken." He did not say this with sadness or with fear. He said it with a calm clarity. He enjoyed the glass, he used it, he appreciated its beauty, but he never forgot its inherent nature, which is to be fragile and impermanent. He knew that one day, a slip of the hand, a gust of wind, a careless moment, and it would shatter. Because he had already accepted its brokenness, he was able to love it more fully, right now, in this moment, without the constant, anxious fear of its inevitable end. And when the day finally came that the glass did break, he would simply be able to look at the pieces and say, "Of course, we are all like this beautiful, breakable glass. Our bodies, our relationships, our moments of joy, our very lives, are precious and impermanent." Our modern culture teaches us to deny this, to pretend we are made of granite, to fight against the inevitable. We live in constant fear of the cracks appearing. This path teaches the opposite. It asks us to acknowledge our beautiful fragility. In doing so, we do not become morbid or sad. We become more present, more grateful. The love we feel becomes more poignant, the joy more vibrant, because we know it is not a permanent possession, but a temporary gift. To understand dukkha is to understand that life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced. It is to understand that the cracks are not flaws, they are a part of what it means to be. The pain from our past wounds, the first and most obvious form of dukkha, is real, but it is not a sign that our glass is ruined. It is simply a part of our story, a crack that has become part of our unique pattern. So this truth, the first noble truth of dukkha, is not a sentence of doom, it is a diagnosis. It is the great physician looking at us with boundless compassion and saying, "Yes, I see. There is an illness. There is a fundamental discomfort. This is its nature." It is the most pragmatic and hopeful starting point imaginable, because no doctor stops with the diagnosis. The diagnosis is merely the first, essential step that makes it possible to ask the next crucial question: what is causing this? If the pain of life, the first arrow of dukkha, is an unavoidable part of our journey, then what is it that makes it so much worse? What is the source of the infection that turns a simple wound into a festering, chronic agony? The answer lies not in the world outside, but in the world within. It lies in our own reaction to the pain. Having accepted the universal nature of pain, the truth of dukkha, we are no longer stranded on an island of personal misery. We stand on common ground. But a question naturally arises from this new perspective. If pain is a shared human inheritance, why does it manifest so differently in each of us? Why can one person experience a great loss and over time integrate it into a life of wisdom and compassion, while another person, faced with a similar loss, is shattered by it, remaining trapped in a cycle of bitterness and despair for years? The difference does not lie in the quality or the quantity of the initial pain. It lies in what happens next. It lies in a crucial distinction between the pain that life gives us and the suffering that we create for ourselves. This distinction is illuminated most brilliantly in one of the Buddha's most practical and profound teachings, the parable of the second arrow. Imagine a person walking through a forest. The path is uneven and the light is dappled. It is, for all intents and purposes, an ordinary day. Suddenly, without warning, an arrow flies from the dense woods and strikes the person in the arm. The pain is immediate, sharp, and undeniable. The shock, the physical sting, the reality of the wound, this is the first arrow. It has happened. It is a fact. It is the unavoidable pain of living in an unpredictable world where things can and do go wrong. Now, how does the person react? A wise person would feel the pain, assess the wound, and immediately begin the work of removing the arrow and tending to the injury. But that is not what most of us do. The wounded person, in their shock and pain, cries out. They begin a long and torturous monologue. Why me? Why was I chosen for this? Of all the people on this path, why did the arrow have to hit me? This is a catastrophe. I will be scarred forever. The person who shot this must be a terrible, evil human being. My walk is ruined. My day is ruined. Perhaps my whole life is now ruined by this one event. As they spiral deeper into this narrative of anger, self-pity, and fear, they do something that seems utterly irrational. They reach into their own quiver, pull out another arrow, and plunge it into their own arm right next to the first one. This is the second arrow. Let us look closely at these two arrows, for they hold the secret to our suffering. The first arrow is the raw experience of life. It is the critical remark from your boss. It is the discovery of a partner's betrayal. It is the unexpected medical diagnosis. It is the phone call that delivers bad news. It is the memory of a past trauma that surges into your awareness without your consent. These are the objective, or seemingly objective, events of life. They are often outside of our control. They hurt. This pain is clean. It is pure. It is the pain of dukkha dukkha we spoke of earlier. It is real, and to deny it, to pretend it doesn't hurt, is a form of violence against ourselves. The path of wisdom is not about becoming immune to the first arrow. To be alive is to be vulnerable to it. No amount of meditation or spiritual practice will create a magical shield that deflects every misfortune. First arrows are simply part of the territory of a human life. The second arrow, however, is entirely different. The second arrow is our reaction to the first. It is the story we tell ourselves about the pain. It is the vast tangled web of thoughts, judgments, and emotions that we spin around the initial wound. If the first arrow is the event, the second arrow is our commentary on the event. It is the voice that says, I am a failure. It is the feeling of shame that says, I deserve this. It is the anger that says, this is unfair and it should not be happening. It is the fear that says, this pain will never end. The first arrow is the physical sensation of being struck. The second arrow is the mental anguish, the rumination, the catastrophizing. The first arrow wounds the body. The second arrow poisons the mind. And here is the crucial insight. Most of our prolonged torment, the suffering that keeps us awake at night, the suffering that defines our emotional wounds, is not caused by the first arrow. It is caused by the second, third, fourth, and 100th arrows that we repeatedly and unconsciously shoot into ourselves. Let's examine the quiver of second arrows we all carry. There is the arrow of judgment. The first arrow hits, perhaps you make a mistake at work, and immediately you fire the second arrow. I'm so stupid. I can't do anything right. You judge your action, and more painfully, you judge your very being. There is the arrow of resistance. The first arrow hits, a relationship ends, and you fire the second arrow. This can't be happening. I don't accept this. This constant fight with what is, this refusal to accept the reality of the situation, creates immense tension and prolongs the agony indefinitely. There is the arrow of catastrophizing. The first arrow hits, you receive a worrying piece of news, and the second arrow is a whole volley of future fears. This is the beginning of the end. Everything is going to fall apart. My life is over. You take a single, painful event and project it into a future of complete and utter ruin. And perhaps most poignantly, there is the arrow of self-blame, especially in relation to old wounds. The first arrow struck long ago, in childhood perhaps, and for decades you have been firing second arrows. I should have done something differently. I should have been stronger. There must be something fundamentally wrong with me for that to have happened. We become the architects of our own prisons, reinforcing the bars with every second arrow we fire. Understanding this distinction is the beginning of true freedom. It shifts the focus from what we cannot control to what we can. We cannot control the unpredictable flight of the first arrow. We cannot change the past. We cannot control the actions or words of others. But we do have the power to choose not to pick up the second arrow. This is not about emotional suppression. It is not about pretending the first arrow didn't hurt. On the contrary, it is about having the courage to fully, mindfully, and compassionately feel the clean pain of the first arrow without immediately layering on the story. The practice lies in creating a pause, a sacred space between the stimulus and the response. The first arrow strikes. Instead of instantly reacting with the usual torrent of thoughts and judgments, you can learn to simply stop, to take a breath, to say to yourself, this is a moment of pain. This hurts. You acknowledge the raw sensation without adding the narrative. You feel the sting without calling yourself weak for feeling it. You notice the sadness without telling yourself it will last forever. In that space, in that pause, lies your power. You give the initial wound the clean air it needs to heal, rather than immediately infecting it with the poison of the second arrow. You begin to see that your thoughts are just thoughts, not objective truths. The thought, I am a failure, is not the same as the reality of making a mistake. The thought, this pain will last forever, is not the same as the present sensation of pain. By not firing the second arrow, you are not avoiding the problem. You are refusing to become the problem. You are taking a radical stand for your own well-being, choosing sanity over the familiar, seductive drama of suffering. This capacity to pause, to see the difference between pain and suffering, is not something we are born with. It is a skill that must be cultivated, and it begins by understanding the nature of the mind that is so quick to reach for that second arrow, a mind that is often described as a restless, chattering, and untamed creature. We have seen how our own reactions, the second arrows of judgment and fear, are the true source of our prolonged suffering. But this begs a vital question. Who exactly is the archer? Who is it within us that is so quick to react, so eager to spin a story of despair around a simple moment of pain? If we listen closely, especially in moments of quiet, we can begin to hear it. It is a constant, restless chatter, a stream of thoughts, memories, plans, and worries that seems to have a life of its own. In the traditions of the East, this incessant mental activity is given a wonderfully accurate and compassionate name, the monkey mind. Imagine a monkey in a vast jungle, drunk on fermented fruit, and then stung by a scorpion. Can you picture its frantic energy? It swings wildly from one branch to another, never resting, screeching one moment, chattering the next, grabbing for a piece of fruit here, being startled by a shadow there. It leaps from a branch rooted in the distant past of childhood embarrassment, an old regretto, a branch that doesn't even exist yet, a fantasy of a future catastrophe. This is the nature of our untrained mind. It is a whirlwind of chaotic, undisciplined energy, and for most of our lives, we are completely swept up in it. Now, the first and most important thing to understand about this monkey mind is that it is not your enemy. It is not a malicious force trying to sabotage your happiness. To see it as an enemy is to immediately declare war on a fundamental part of yourself, a war you can never win. The monkey mind is, in its essence, a survival mechanism that has been thrust into a world it wasn't designed for. Its original job description was to keep you alive, scan the environment for threats, remember what was dangerous, plan how to get food, and ensure the safety of the tribe. It is a problem-solving machine. But in our modern world, we are inundated with 1,000,000 times more information and stimulation than our ancestors ever were. The monkey mind, still trying to do its job, simply never shuts off. It sees potential problems everywhere in an ambiguous email from a colleague, in a strange look from a stranger, in the nightly news. It treats a looming work deadline with the same life-or-death urgency as a tiger lurking in the bushes. The problem is not the monkey itself, but our relationship to it. We have come to believe that we are the monkey. We mistake its frantic chattering for the voice of truth. We identify with every one of its fears, every one of its fleeting desires, every one of its harsh judgments. We believe the drunken, scorpion-stung monkey is the king of our inner kingdom. This case of mistaken identity is precisely what gives our emotional wounds their terrible, lasting power. When a past trauma, a first arrow, has struck us, the monkey mind finds the memory of that event and treats it like its favorite branch. It swings on it day and night. It replays the scene endlessly, analyzing every detail, looking for someone to blame. It creates endless sequels and prequels, imagining all the things you should have said or done. It then takes the feeling of that old wound and projects it onto the future, creating elaborate fantasies of abandonment, failure, and betrayal that haven't even happened. It whispers in your ear, "Remember how much that hurt? It's going to happen again. Don't trust anyone. Don't take any risks. Stay small. Stay safe." It becomes the tireless narrator of your victimhood, the librarian of your every grievance. This is how a single event in the past becomes a chronic condition in the present. The feeling of being haunted is quite literally being followed around by a chattering monkey who will not stop talking about the ghost. It keeps the wound fresh, it keeps the nervous system on high alert, and it fires second arrow after second arrow until we are exhausted and riddled with self-inflicted pain. And we are so exhausted. The mental fatigue that comes from living with an untamed monkey mind is profound. In our desperation, we usually try one of two strategies, both of which are doomed to fail. The first strategy is to fight the monkey. We try to argue with it, to reason with it. When a painful thought arises, we shout at it internally. Stop thinking that. Think of something positive. This is like standing at the bottom of a tree and yelling at the monkey to sit still. What happens? It only becomes more agitated. It chatters louder, swings more frantically. Trying to suppress a thought only gives it more energy. You cannot fight your mind with your mind. You will only create more conflict, more noise, and more exhaustion. The second strategy is to try and numb or outrun the monkey. This is the path of endless distraction. We immerse ourselves in work, we binge watch entire seasons of television, we scroll endlessly through social media, we use food or alcohol to turn down the volume of the inner chatter, and for a little while, it might seem to work. But the moment the distraction ends, the moment the screen goes dark or the effects wear off, who is sitting there waiting for us, chattering away as if it never left? The monkey. This constant cycle of fighting and fleeing is why so many of us feel depleted, as if we are running an internal marathon every single day just to stay one step ahead of our own thoughts. So, if fighting is futile and fleeing is temporary, what is the way forward? Here we find one of the most beautiful and practical parables of this path, the taming of the wild monkey. The story is told of a man who goes into the forest and captures a monkey. He thinks he can domesticate it, so he takes it home. The monkey, of course, creates chaos. It swings from the rafters, breaks his pottery, steals his food, and screeches all night. The man is at his wit's end. He then tries to chain the monkey to a post inside his house, but this only makes it more violent and desperate. It pulls and strains against the chain until it is raw and bleeding. Frustrated, he goes to a wise old woman who lives at the edge of the forest. After listening to his story, she smiles and says, "You have the right idea, but the wrong method and the wrong location. You cannot tame a wild creature by imprisoning it. You must give it freedom, but with a boundary." She instructs him, "Take the monkey and the post back to the forest where it belongs. Find a clearing and drive the post firmly into the earth. Then, take a long, strong rope and tie the monkey to the post. At first, it will do what it has always done. It will run and jump and try to get to the far-off trees. It will strain against the rope until it falls. It will try this again and again, running to the very end of its tether in every direction. But the post is firm and the rope is strong. Eventually, the monkey will grow tired. It will realize the limits of its roaming, and at last, it will come to simply sit at the foot of the post, calmly, peacefully, at rest." This simple story is a complete instruction manual for meditation. The wild monkey is our untrained mind. The sturdy post, driven into the earth, is our own breath and body, the one constant stable thing in our experience. The long, strong rope is our faculty of mindful attention. The practice is not to cage the monkey or to kill it, but to gently, patiently tie its attention to the anchor of the breath. When we first begin, our mind will do exactly what the monkey did. It will run off, chasing thoughts, memories, and plans. It will strain against the practice, but our job is not to chase it or to scold it. Our job is simply to notice that it has wandered, and to gently, kindly lead it back to the post, again and again. Each time we do this, the rope of mindfulness becomes a little stronger, and the monkey's frantic energy begins to subside. It learns that peace is not found in the faraway trees of past and future, but right here, at the foot of the post. To begin this work of taming, we do not need to change our minds. We just need to give them an anchor. And that anchor, that sturdy post, has been with us all along, waiting patiently. We have met the chattering monkey mind, the frantic archer of our second arrows. We have seen how fighting it is futile and fleeing it is temporary, and we have been given a profound secret in the parable of the wild monkey. The key is not to cage the creature, but to gently tie it to a post. Now, we turn our full attention to that post, to the anchor that has been patiently waiting for us our entire lives. It is your breath. Think of it. It is the first thing you received upon entering this world, and it will be the last thing you release when you leave it. It is the constant, quiet rhythm beneath every thought, every emotion, every action. It operates without your conscious command, yet you can guide it at will. It is the perfect bridge between the seen and the unseen, the physical and the mental, the automatic and the intentional. To learn to rest your attention on the breath is not a chore or an exercise. It is a homecoming. In the ancient language of this path, this practice is called Anapanasati. Ana means inhalation. Apana means exhalation. Sati means mindfulness. It is, quite simply, the mindfulness of breathing in and breathing out. It is the art of coming home. The primary power of the breath is its unwavering honesty. It cannot be anywhere else but right here, right now. Your mind can travel to a painful memory from 20 years ago, or it can leap into an anxious fantasy about next week, but your breath is breathing only in this present moment. You cannot breathe in the past, and you cannot breathe in the future. Therefore, to place your attention on the physical sensation of the breath is to tether yourself to the present moment, the only place where life is actually happening. It is the perfect antidote to the time-traveling torment of the monkey mind. When you are fully feeling the air enter your nostrils, you cannot simultaneously be lost in a regretful conversation from yesterday. When you are fully aware of the gentle rise of your abdomen on the in-breath, you are not also consumed by worry for tomorrow. The anchor of the breath holds you in the calm harbor of the now, preventing you from being swept away by the storms of past and future. Peace is not a destination you arrive at after years of struggle. Peace is the nature of the present moment when it is unburdened by the stories we tell about it. The breath is our direct and unconditional gateway to that peace. So how do we begin this homecoming? With a gentleness that may feel foreign at first. First, find a comfortable posture. You can sit on a chair with your feet flat on the floor and your spine upright but not rigid. You can sit on a cushion on the floor. You can even lie down, especially if you are using this practice to prepare for sleep. The goal is a posture that embodies a dignified ease. You are not a soldier on guard, nor are you a puddle of indifference. You are simply creating a container for your attention. Now, the most important instruction, you do not need to change your breath in any way. This is not a breathing exercise designed to produce a special state. It is an exercise in awareness. Your only task is to become interested in the breath exactly as it is. If it is shallow, let it be shallow. If it is deep, let it be deep. If it is fast or slow or uneven, that is the reality of this moment. You are not trying to fix or improve the breath. You are learning to be its intimate, non-judgmental friend. Let your attention rest on the physical sensations of breathing. You might choose to feel it at the tip of your nostrils, noticing the slight coolness of the air as it enters and the subtle warmth as it leaves. Or you might rest your attention on your chest, feeling the gentle expansion and contraction. A wonderful place to anchor the attention is the abdomen, placing a hand there if you like, and feeling its soft rise on the in-breath and its gentle fall on the out-breath. Choose one spot and let it be your home base. And now, the inevitable. Sooner or later, perhaps after only 1 or 2 breaths, you will notice that your mind has wandered. You are no longer with the breath. You are planning dinner, replaying an argument, worrying about a bill, or lost in a daydream. Please hear this with the utmost clarity. This is not a mistake. This is not a failure. This is not a sign that you are a bad meditator. This is what minds do. This is the monkey mind pulling at its rope. The moment you realize you have been lost in thought is a moment of victory. It is a moment of mindfulness. You have woken up. And what do you do when you wake up? You do not scold the monkey. You do not sigh in frustration or judge yourself for your wandering mind. You simply, gently, and with the kindness you would show to a small puppy, guide your attention back home, back to the sensation of the breath. You might even label the distraction softly in your mind, thinking or worrying, and then you return. This act of returning, over and over and over again, without judgment, is the practice. The goal is not to achieve a perfectly still mind, free of all thought. The goal is to cultivate a mind that is capable of returning, a mind that is resilient, patient, and compassionate with its own nature. Every return is a moment of training, a strengthening of the muscle of mindfulness. As you stay with this practice, you are doing more than just calming your thoughts. You are speaking directly to your body in its oldest and most profound language. Your nervous system has 2 primary modes. The sympathetic nervous system is the gas pedal, our fight, flight, or freeze response. It is the state of alarm, of stress, of high alert. For those of us with emotional wounds, this system is often stuck in the on position. The parasympathetic nervous system is the brake pedal. It is the state of rest and digest, of calm, of safety, of healing. The gentle, rhythmic, and conscious observation of the breath is a direct signal to the body to apply the brakes. As you breathe in and out, you are communicating to your nervous system. You are safe now. The threat has passed. The battle is over. You can stand down. The body, which has been holding the tension of old traumas, begins to believe you. The clenched jaw softens. The tight shoulders drop. The racing heart begins to slow. You are using the breath as a physical lever to shift your entire being from a state of threat to a state of peace. Imagine you are faced with crossing a deep, wide canyon. The only way across is a long and rickety roped bridge that sways in the wind. Below you, in the swirling mists, are all of your fears, your doubts, your painful memories. To look down is to become paralyzed with terror. The sheer scale of the abyss is overwhelming. A wise traveler knows that the only way to cross is to not look at the chasm. Instead, they lower their gaze and focus their entire attention on one single thing: the feeling of their foot lifting and landing on the very next wooden plank, and then the next, and the next. The journey is not made by a heroic leap, but by a succession of small, humble, and attentive steps. Each plank is a breath. The chasm of our trauma and anxiety can feel just as terrifying and overwhelming. Trying to fix it all at once is paralyzing, but we can learn to lower our gaze from the terrifying story and place our full attention on the simple, solid reality of this in-breath, and now this out-breath. One step at a time, we find we can walk across even the most frightening of inner landscapes. With this practice, we have found our post. We have found our anchor. We are no longer a rudderless ship tossed about on a chaotic sea. We have a place to come home to, a place of refuge that is always available, in any circumstance. We now possess the fundamental tool of stability. With this newfound stability, we do not need to fear the weather anymore. We can stay in our vessel, anchored in the breath, and begin to look at the movement of the water itself, the great, powerful waves of emotion, not as a threat that will capsize us, but with the steady, curious eye of one who is finally learning the ways of the sea. Having found our anchor in the breath, we have established a place of refuge, a stable platform in the midst of our inner world. We are no longer a person lost at sea, tossed about by every wave, at the mercy of every current. We are now the lighthouse keeper, standing on solid ground, able to watch the ocean's moods without being drowned by them. From this place of stability, we can now turn our attention to the ocean itself, to the vast, powerful, and ever-changing world of our feelings. In our ordinary life, we tend to have two primary relationships with our feelings. The first is to be utterly consumed by them. When a wave of sadness or anger arises, it sweeps us off our feet, pulls us under, and we tumble helplessly in its power, unable to tell where the wave ends and we begin. We are drowning. The second relationship is one of desperate resistance. We see the wave of a difficult feeling forming on the horizon, and we frantically try to build a dam to stop it. We distract ourselves, we numb ourselves, we deny what we are feeling, hoping the wave will simply go away. But this takes enormous energy, and eventually the dam always breaks, often resulting in a flood far more destructive than the original wave. This path offers a third way. It is the way of the surfer. The surfer does not try to stop the ocean, nor do they allow themselves to be passively drowned. The surfer learns to understand the nature of the waves. They learn to feel their rhythm, to respect their power, and to skillfully ride them until their energy naturally dissipates. To relate to our feelings in this way, we must first change our fundamental understanding of what they are. In the Buddhist tradition, the word Vedana is used to describe the immediate feeling tone that arises whenever we make contact with the world through any of our senses. Before we even have a complex story about it, there is a simple, raw feeling, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. This raw feeling is the seed from which our more complex emotions grow. The key to freedom is learning to work with this energy at its very root before it blossoms into a dramatic story. The most profound trap we fall into is the trap of language, the trap of identification. When an unpleasant feeling arises, we say, "I am sad," or "I am angry." Notice the power of that tiny verb, am. It creates a direct equation. The feeling is me. My identity is sadness. I am, in my very essence, anger. This makes the feeling seem solid, permanent, and intensely personal. It feels like a core truth about who we are. From this place of identification, there is no room to breathe, no space for perspective. The emotion has colonized our entire being. Mindfulness invites a subtle but revolutionary shift in our language and, therefore, in our perception. Instead of saying, I am sad, we can learn to say, I am experiencing a feeling of sadness. Or more simply, sadness is here. Can you feel the difference? The equation is broken. There is you, the one who is aware, and there is the feeling, the object of your awareness. A space has been created. You are no longer the wave. You are the ocean that is vast enough to hold the wave. You are the sky, and the feeling is a cloud passing through. The sky is not afraid of the cloud, even a dark storm cloud. It has room for all of it. With this space, we can begin to observe the true nature of feelings. They are not solid static entities. They are processes. They are energy in motion, which is the very root of the word emotion. Like any process, they have a natural life cycle. A feeling arises, it gathers strength, it peaks, and then, if left to its own devices, it naturally subsides and dissolves. Think of it like a fire. A log is thrown on, the trigger event, and a flame ignites, the feeling arises. If we do nothing, it will burn for a while, and eventually it will burn itself out, leaving only ash. But we rarely leave it alone. When a pleasant feeling arises, joy, excitement, love, we do something very interesting. We start frantically trying to pile more logs on the fire, desperate to keep it burning forever. We cling to it, we grasp it. This clinging, this resistance to the natural fading of the flame, creates a new kind of suffering, the anxiety of losing the good feeling, and the disappointment when it inevitably passes. When an unpleasant feeling arises, fear, grief, anger, we do the opposite. We try to pour water on the fire to stamp it out. We resist it. We push it away. I shouldn't be feeling this, we tell ourselves. This resistance is like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. It takes a tremendous amount of muscular effort, both physically and mentally. We tense our bodies, we distract our minds, we fight against the very energy that is present. And what happens the moment our attention wavers? The ball bursts to the surface, often with even more force than it had initially. This resistance is what causes emotions to get stuck. The energy, denied its natural expression and release, goes into hiding in the body, becoming the chronic tension in our jaws, the persistent ache in our hearts, the knot of anxiety in our stomachs. By fighting the feeling, we inadvertently give it a permanent home inside us. The practice then is one of radical allowance. It is to let the fire burn, to let the wave move. When a strong feeling arises, the first step is to recognize it, to turn towards it with a gentle curiosity. Instead of recoiling, you can whisper internally, "Ah, this is anger," or "I see you, fear." Then immediately you come home to your anchor. You feel your breath. The breath is your surfboard, the steady presence that keeps you from being pulled under. With the stability of the breath as your foundation, you can then bring a kind, investigative awareness to the feeling itself. Ask yourself, where do I feel this in my body? Not, why do I feel this? Which is the voice of the monkey mind looking for a story. But where? Is it a tightness in the throat? A heat spreading across your chest? A hollow, empty feeling in your belly? Be specific. By locating the physical sensations, you transform the overwhelming and abstract concept of my anger into a manageable collection of bodily energies, heat, pressure, vibration. You are disarming it by seeing it clearly. Then, you can use the breath to create even more space. Imagine you could breathe into that area of tightness, not to force it away, but to gently surround it with warm, spacious attention, giving it room to be what it is. In doing so, the feeling no longer feels like it is suffocating you. You are breathing with it, allowing its energy to run its course. There is a beautiful poem by the 13th century mystic Rumi that perfectly describes this practice. He writes, "This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. To practice in this way is to transform your very being into this guest house. You are the host. Your feelings are your visitors. You learn to greet them all with a courageous and open heart, knowing that none of them are here to stay forever, and each one has something to teach you. To meet a guest like malice or a crowd of sorrows at the door, Laughing this requires a profound courage and a deep sense of safety. It is not an easy task. To face the raw energy of our deepest wounds, we cannot go in unprotected. We need a shield. Not a shield of armor that hardens us, but a shield that softens us. A shield made of an unconditional and boundless friendliness toward ourselves. Before we can truly offer hospitality to our most difficult inner guests, we must first learn to be our own best friend. We must cultivate the gentle, protective, and healing power of loving kindness. We have committed to turning our heart into a guest house, to welcoming whatever feelings may arrive at our door. But to offer true hospitality to our most difficult guests, the sorrow, the fear, the shame from our old wounds requires more than just brave intention. It requires us to cultivate a profound and unshakable atmosphere of warmth and safety within the house itself. For most of us, the inner climate of our minds is not a welcoming one. It is more like a harsh, sterile courtroom. There is a stern judge on the bench, a relentless prosecutor making their case, and we are the defendant in the dock, always on trial and almost always found wanting. The voice of this inner critic is the tireless archer of the second arrow. It is the narrator of our inadequacy, the one who whispers, "You should be over this by now. What is wrong with you for feeling this way? You are not strong enough, not good enough." To attempt to heal a deep emotional wound in such an environment is like trying to perform delicate surgery in the middle of a sandstorm. It is impossible. You cannot heal a wound while you are simultaneously pouring the acid of self-judgment into it. Therefore, the most foundational act of healing is to change this inner climate. It is the radical practice of dismantling the courtroom and replacing it with a warm, gentle, and nourishing sanctuary. This is the practice of metta. Metta is a word from the ancient Pali language that is often translated as loving kindness, but it can also be understood as boundless friendliness, unconditional goodwill, or gentle friendship. It is an active, heartfelt wishing of well-being, a radiation of warmth from the heart. It is the direct and powerful antidote to the cold poison of the inner critic. And this practice, in a way that can feel counterintuitive and even revolutionary to our Western minds, begins with ourselves. We are often taught that focusing on ourselves is selfish, that we should always put others first. But this wisdom tradition understands a simple truth. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot offer true, sustainable friendliness to the world if you are at war with yourself. Your capacity for genuine kindness towards others is directly proportional to the kindness you can show to your own being. For many of us, this is the most difficult step of the entire journey, for the habit of self-criticism is so deeply ingrained, we may not even recognize it as a choice. So, how do we begin this radical act of offering friendship to ourselves? We start with intention, expressed through the gentle repetition of certain phrases. These phrases are not magic spells, nor are they affirmations we must force ourselves to believe. They are seeds. Our job is not to force the flower to bloom, but simply to plant the seeds in the soil of the heart and water them with our quiet, sustained attention. Find a comfortable posture, a posture of ease and dignity. Let your breath be natural. And then you can begin to softly, silently repeat the classic phrases of metta for yourself. May I be safe. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. Let's touch on the depth of these simple wishes. May I be safe. This is a wish for safety from both outer harm and, most importantly, from the inner harm of our own corrosive thoughts and judgments. It is a wish to find a true refuge within. May I be happy. This is not a wish for fleeting pleasure or constant excitement, but for a deep, authentic happiness that comes from a peaceful heart and a clear mind. May I be healthy. A wish for the well-being of our physical body and our emotional and psychological health, recognizing their profound interconnection. And may I live with ease. This is perhaps the most encompassing phrase. It is a wish to be free from the heavy burden of suffering, to move through the world with a sense of lightness and grace, free from the inner torment of anxiety, anger, and despair. As you repeat these phrases, you may find that it feels mechanical or awkward. That is perfectly normal. You may find that a voice arises saying, "This is ridiculous," or "You don't deserve this." This is the inner critic feeling threatened by this new atmosphere of warmth. When this happens, do not fight it. Simply notice it with a gentle awareness. See it for what it is, just another thought, another guest in the house. Your practice is to be kind even to the part of you that feels unworthy of kindness. If offering the phrases to "I feel's too difficult," you can try a different approach. Visualize yourself as a very small, innocent child. Can you offer these wishes to that child? May this little one be safe. May this little one be happy. Almost everyone can feel a natural upwelling of tenderness for their own younger self. Or you can begin by bringing to mind a person or even a pet that you love easily and unconditionally. Feel the warmth that arises in your heart as you wish them well. Once you feel that warmth, you can gently try to turn a little of that friendliness back toward yourself, as if you are standing in the warm glow of the same fire. Remember, the goal is not to force a feeling. It is to set an intention. You are simply pointing your heart in the direction of warmth. Over time, that warmth will grow. It is crucial to understand what metta is not. It is not self-indulgence or complacency. It is not a way to let ourselves off the hook for harmful behaviors. In fact, true metta creates the psychological safety that is necessary for us to look at our own shortcomings with honesty and clarity. It is much easier to admit you have made a mistake when you are speaking to a trusted friend than when you are facing a harsh prosecutor. By becoming our own trusted friend, we gain the courage to change and grow. Metta is also not narcissism. Narcissism is a desperate attempt to build a fragile ego, a constant need for external validation. Metta is the opposite. It is an internal resource, a quiet recognition of the inherent worthiness that every being possesses, including ourselves. It is not about being better than others. It is about including ourselves in the circle of care that we would naturally extend to others. It is a quiet, powerful declaration. My suffering matters. My well-being matters. I am worthy of my own care. Imagine a small child who has fallen ill. They are feverish, crying, and uncomfortable. A wise and loving mother does not get angry with the child for being sick. She does not shout at the fever to go away. She does not tell the child, "You are weak for getting sick. You need to be stronger." Her response is the embodiment of metta. She draws the child close, holds them, speaks in soft, soothing tones. She gently wipes their forehead with a cool cloth. She surrounds the child with an unwavering atmosphere of love, safety, and care. Her presence, her boundless friendliness, does not magically cure the illness in an instant, but it creates the perfect conditions in which the child's own natural healing processes can function optimally. It soothes the child's fear, which allows their body to relax and recover. We must learn to become this wise mother for ourselves. Our emotional wounds, our traumas, our anxieties, these are the sick child within us. For years, perhaps our whole lives, the inner critic has been the parent who scolds the child for being sick. Metta is the practice of consciously choosing to become the loving mother instead. It is the act of holding our own pain with unconditional tenderness, of whispering to the wounded part of ourselves, "I am here. You are safe now. I will not abandon you." As we practice this, something miraculous begins to shift. The inner courtroom dissolves, the sandstorm settles, the ground of our being becomes softer, more fertile. The pain that once felt sharp and unbearable, when met with this warmth, can finally begin to unclench. It has been held in a state of tension for so long, and this friendliness gives it permission to finally relax. When our boundless friendliness, our metta, comes into contact with our own pain or the pain of others, it naturally transforms into a more engaged and active quality. This readiness to not only be with suffering, but to act to alleviate it, is the next step in our journey. It is the blossoming of our metta into boundless compassion. With the gentle warmth of loving kindness, we have begun to change our inner world from a harsh courtroom into a welcoming sanctuary. We have started to offer ourselves the boundless friendship that is our birthright. Now we must ask, what happens when pain arrives in this sanctuary? What is the role of this boundless friendliness when it comes face to face with the raw, undeniable reality of suffering? In that moment of meeting, metta blossoms into its more focused and engaged sibling, karuna. This is the Sanskrit word for compassion. Compassion is not pity. Pity looks down from a safe distance upon the suffering of another, creating separation. Compassion steps down into the arena, sits alongside the pain, and creates connection. It is the heart's natural response to suffering. It is the trembling of the heart in the presence of pain, combined with the powerful, active wish, "May you be free from this suffering." It is our friendliness mobilizing into action. It is helpful to understand the subtle but important difference between loving kindness and compassion. Metta, loving kindness, is like the sun. It shines its warmth universally and unconditionally on all beings, whether they are currently happy, sad, or neutral. It is the broad foundational wish for well-being. Karuna, compassion, is more like the focus beam of a medic's flashlight in the dark. It activates specifically when it encounters a wound. It directs its energy precisely to the site of pain. Metta might wish for a happy person. May your happiness continue. Karuna, seeing a person in pain, wishes, may your pain be soothed and healed. Metta is the nurturing ground of our practice, the rich soil. Karuna is the specific medicine that we grow in that soil, the medicine we learn to apply directly to our own wounds and the wounds of the world. For those of us carrying the weight of past trauma, learning to cultivate compassion for ourselves is not a luxury, it is an absolute necessity for healing. So, how do we practice this? How do we actively apply the medicine of compassion to our own hearts? The practice of self-compassion can be understood as having three core components, three movements of the heart that we can consciously cultivate whenever we find ourselves in pain. The first is to meet our pain with mindfulness, rather than over-identification. When a wave of grief or a surge of anxiety from an old wound arises, our first task is simply to notice it without getting swept away. We use the clarity we've developed to say, this is a moment of suffering, or this is grief, this is what it feels like. We acknowledge the reality of the pain without immediately launching into the dramatic storyline that usually accompanies it. We resist the urge to become the main character in a tragedy, and instead, we become the calm, clear-eyed witness of a difficult human experience. The second component is to invoke a sense of common humanity, rather than isolation. Our pain, especially trauma-related pain, loves to tell us that we are alone. It whispers, no one else feels this way. You are uniquely broken. This feeling of isolation is a core feature of suffering. Self-compassion directly counters this by gently reminding ourselves of a larger truth. To be human is to be imperfect and to experience pain. When we are suffering, instead of asking, why me? We can learn to say, this is what it feels like for a human being when this happens. I am not alone. We connect our personal ache with the universal river of human tears. This doesn't diminish our own experience, but it frames it in a context of connection rather than separation. It reminds us that we are part of a vast family, all of whom have known or will know pain. The third and most active component is to respond with self-kindness rather than self-judgment. Having mindfully acknowledged our pain and connected it to our shared humanity, we now consciously offer ourselves comfort. This is where we become the wise, loving mother for ourselves. We might put a hand over our heart, a simple gesture of physical soothing. We might speak to ourselves in warm, encouraging tones internally. This is so hard right now. It's okay to feel this way. I am here for you. We actively comfort ourselves rather than attacking ourselves for having the pain in the first place. This three-part dance, acknowledging our pain mindfully, remembering our common humanity, and responding with active kindness, is the essence of self-compassion in action. It is a portable, powerful practice we can use anytime the first arrow strikes. We can deepen this practice by weaving it into the very rhythm of our breath, transforming our breath into an instrument of alchemy. This practice is a gentle version of a Tibetan meditation known as Tonglen, or sending and taking. As you sit with a difficult feeling, you can begin to synchronize it with your breathing. On the in-breath, you consciously and courageously breathe in the feeling of your own pain. You visualize its texture, its color, its quality perhaps, a dark, heavy smoke, or a shard of ice in your heart. You breathe it in, not to hoard it or be consumed by it, but as a radical act of acceptance. You are saying, I am willing to be with this. I will not push it away. Then, on the out-breath, you consciously and generously breathe out whatever would bring relief. You breathe out a sense of light, of space, of coolness, of peace. You breathe out a gentle, healing balm. You breathe in the tightness, and you breathe out softness. You breathe in the fear, and you breathe out safety. With every cycle of breath, you are engaged in a profound process of transformation, using the power of your own compassionate attention to hold your pain and offer yourself release. In the vast iconography of Buddhist wisdom, there is a figure who embodies this principle of perfect compassion. This is the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, a being who, out of boundless empathy, postponed their own final enlightenment in order to stay and help all beings who are suffering. It is said that Avalokiteshvara hears every cry of pain throughout the entire universe. In many artistic depictions, this being is shown with 1,000 arms, and in the palm of each hand is an eye. The arms represent the skillful ability to help in any situation, and the eyes represent the wisdom to see and understand the nature of the suffering. The most important part of this story is that Avalokiteshvara does not block their ears to the sound of sorrow. They do not turn away. They turn toward it with a heart so open and brave that it can hold all the pain of the world without breaking. We can understand this figure not as a deity to be worshipped, but as an archetype of our own deepest potential. We all have the capacity to become our own Avalokiteshvara. We can learn to listen to our own inner cries, not with annoyance or impatience, but with the steady, unwavering, and open-hearted attention of one whose only wish is to bring comfort and peace. We can learn to grow 1,000 arms of self-kindness, to hold ourselves in our darkest moments. With a gentle, foundational warmth of loving kindness and the brave, engaged presence of compassion, we have assembled a powerful toolkit for meeting the difficulties of our present moment. We have learned to be a safe harbor for ourselves. We have learned to be a friend to our own hearts. But so many of our wounds are not just present moment feelings. They are chained to events in the past. They are anchored to stories, to identities, to grievances that we have carried for years or even decades. To be truly free, we must learn to look at these old, heavy anchors. We must learn to see the chains that bind us to a past that no longer exists. And with great care and gentleness, we must learn the liberating art of letting them go. With the inner sanctuary, warmed by loving kindness, and the courage to meet our pain with compassion, we have become a true friend to ourselves in the present moment. We have learned to ride the waves of feeling as they arise and pass. Yet, for so many of us, the deepest source of our suffering is not a present moment wave, but a heavy anchor lodged in the seabed of the past. It is the weight of old stories, old hurts, and old identities that we drag behind us, fouling our every movement and clouding the waters of our life. The idea of addressing this anchor often brings up the phrase, letting go. And for many, these are two of the most difficult and misunderstood words in any language. They can sound dismissive, like a suggestion to simply get over it. They can feel like a demand to forget what happened, to pretend the wound wasn't real, or to condone the actions that caused us harm. But in the context of this path, letting go is none of these things. It is not an act of suppression or denial. It is a quiet, courageous, and profoundly compassionate act of unclenching the fist. It is the recognition that the battle is over, and we can finally, for our own sake, lay down our arms. To understand what it means to let go, we must first look honestly at what we are holding on to. We are not just holding on to a memory, a simple record of a past event. We are holding on to a story. And often, that story has become a central pillar of our identity. The narrative of what was done to me morphs, over time, into the narrative of who I am. We become the survivor. We become the one who was abandoned. We become the victim of injustice. For a time, these identities can be useful. They can help us make sense of a chaotic experience and connect with others who have been through something similar. But if we are not careful, these identities, born of pain, can become prisons. We define ourselves by our wounds. We unconsciously seek out experiences that confirm our painful identity. Our wound becomes our most prized, most familiar possession. To even consider letting go of the story can feel terrifying, like a kind of death. If I am not the one who was wronged, then who am I? This clinging is understandable, but we must ask ourselves, with great honesty, does holding on to this story, this identity, truly serve me now? Or does it simply keep me tethered to the very pain I long to be free from? There is a powerful metaphor that illuminates this process. Imagine that someone, out of malice or carelessness, has thrown you a piece of burning charcoal. You catch it. Your hand is seared, the pain is intense and immediate. Now, what is the wise course of action? Your mind might become completely obsessed with the person who threw the coal. Why did they do it? What was their motive? It was so unfair. They should never have done that. You might spend days, weeks, or years analyzing the event, replaying it, telling everyone the story of the terrible person who gave you this burning coal. But while you are engaged in all this mental activity, what is happening? The coal is still in your hand. Your hand is still burning. Your analysis, your judgment, your righteous anger, none of it stops the pain. In fact, it keeps your attention locked on it. The source of your continued suffering is not the person who threw the coal. The source of your continued suffering is that you are still holding it. Letting go is the simple, direct act of opening your hand. It is the realization that you have the power to stop burning yourself right now. It does not excuse the other person. It does not deny that the coal was thrown. It is a pragmatic, compassionate act of self-preservation. It is the choice to prioritize your own healing over your attachment to the story of your grievance. Part of what keeps our fist clenched so tightly around that hot coal is the desperate need to understand the demand for a reason. We believe that if we could just find a logical explanation for why the painful event happened, then we could be at peace. We become amateur detectives of our own past, endlessly sifting through clues, trying to construct a coherent narrative that makes sense of the senseless. We get lost in a labyrinth of what-ifs and if-onlys. If only I had been different. If only they had been different. If only the circumstances had been different. This search for why can become a form of suffering in itself, a bottomless pit of rumination. The path of wisdom gently suggests that the peace we seek will not be found in an answer. Some events are fundamentally irrational. Some pain is senseless. True peace comes from letting go of the need to understand. It is the courageous acceptance that the event happened and that a satisfying explanation may never be found. We must also learn to let go of the need for an apology that may never come. We often make our inner peace conditional on the actions of another. I will be able to move on when they apologize. This gives all of our power away. We are chaining our well-being to someone who may be unable or unwilling to give us what we need. Letting go is the act of taking that power back. It is deciding that our own peace of mind is too precious to be left in someone else's hands. There is a classic Zen story that captures the essence of this practice perfectly. Two monks, one older and one younger, were on a long journey. They came to a river that was swollen from heavy rains, the current swift and the water muddy. On the riverbank stood a young woman in fine silk clothes, clearly distressed, unable to cross without ruining her attire. The younger monk, a zealous follower of the monastic rules, noted this and walked on, careful to keep his distance. The rules were clear. A monk should not touch a woman. The older monk, however, simply walked up to the woman, wordlessly lifted her into his arms, carried her across the churning river, and set her down gently on the other side. He then continued on his way. The younger monk was scandalized. He was bursting with indignation. For the next several hours, they walked in silence, but the younger monk's mind was a storm of judgment. He replayed the scene over and over. How could he do that? It is a serious violation. What will people think? The story grew larger and larger in his mind. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, he burst out, "Brother, I must speak. What you did back there was completely inappropriate. We are forbidden to touch women, and you carried her in your arms. I am shocked by your conduct." The older monk looked at him, his expression calm and gentle. He replied softly, "Brother, I put that woman down on the riverbank hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" This story strikes at the very heart of our emotional lives. We carry people, we carry conversations, we carry slights and injustices and painful events with us long after they are over. We are weighed down by the ghosts of 1,000 river crossings. We believe our burden is real and solid, but it is made only of our own repetitive thinking, our own refusal to put it down. Letting go is the act of putting the woman down on the riverbank. It is looking at the story we are carrying and recognizing that it is heavy and that we are tired. It is the simple, compassionate choice to stop carrying what is no longer ours to hold. This ability to unclench, to open the hand, to leave the past in the past, does not come from sheer willpower. It arises naturally from a deep experiential insight into the very nature of reality. It is the wisdom that understands that nothing is solid or permanent, including our most painful memories and our most rigid identities. It is the profound freedom that comes from seeing in our own bones that all things must pass. We have spoken of letting go, of the compassionate act of opening our clenched fist and dropping the hot coal of our grievances. But this raises a profound question. Why is our grip so tight in the first place? Why do we cling so tenaciously to our painful stories, our identities, our wounds? The answer lies in a fundamental misperception of reality. We cling because we believe things are solid. We relate to our anger, our grief, our trauma, and even our own self as if they are permanent, unchanging statues in the landscape of our lives. We see our suffering as a solid, heavy stone that we are doomed to carry forever. The mind takes a snapshot of a moment of intense pain and mistakes that single, frozen image for the entire, flowing film of existence. The wisdom that allows us to finally and truly let go is the one that shatters this illusion of solidity. It is the master key that unlocks every prison of our own making. This is the insight into Anicca, the universal law of impermanence. To see the world through the lens of Anicca is to understand that nothing is static. Everything, from the most distant galaxy to the most fleeting thought, is in a constant state of flux. Life is not a collection of fixed objects, but a ceaseless, dynamic process of arising and passing away. It is a dance of energy, a river of change. Our suffering arises from our desperate attempt to stand still in the middle of this flowing river, to build permanent structures on its ever-shifting banks. We crave security, predictability, and permanence in a universe whose very nature is change. This fundamental conflict between our desire for certainty and the reality of impermanence is a primary source of our anxiety and dissatisfaction. We want our joy to last forever, and we want our pain to end immediately. Anicca teaches us that neither is possible. Both joy and pain are temporary visitors, waves that rise from the ocean of existence and inevitably fall back into it. To truly understand this is not to become pessimistic or nihilistic, it is to become free. You do not need to believe this as a matter of faith. Impermanence is not a dry philosophical concept, it is the most observable fact of your life. Your primary tool for this investigation is the one you are already using, your breath. Pay attention to a single cycle of your breath. The in-breath is born, it exists for a few moments, and then it dies, making way for the out-breath. The out-breath arises, sustains itself, and then dissolves. Every single breath you take is a complete teaching on Anicca. It is a perfect, miniature drama of birth, life, and death. It shows you, in your own body, that the nature of life is flow. Nothing is held, nothing is kept. There is only this constant rhythmic exchange. Now, turn this observational lens onto your own body. What feels solid? Your bones? They are living tissue, constantly being broken down and rebuilt by cells that are themselves living and dying. The skin you are in today is not the same skin you had a month ago. The body you inhabit now is not the body of your childhood, nor is it the body you will have in your old age. Within the body, sensations are in constant flux. An itch appears on your arm. You feel the urge to scratch it. If you simply watch it, you will notice the sensation intensify, change its quality, and eventually fade away on its own. A pang of hunger arises in your stomach. It feels demanding, urgent, but it too will pass. A feeling of warmth from the sun on your skin, a sudden chill from a brisole of it is arriving and departing. Look at your mind. Have you ever had a single thought that lasted forever? Thoughts bubble up, seemingly from nowhere, capture your attention, and then vanish, replaced by the next. Feelings, even the most powerful ones, follow the same law. The searing heat of anger, the deep ache of grief, the exhilarating flutter of joining, of them set up permanent residence. They are weather patterns that move through the vast sky of your awareness. To see this directly, to watch a painful feeling arise, crest, and pass away, without clinging to it or pushing it away, is a profoundly liberating experience. There is an old story that speaks to this wisdom. A great and powerful king, who had everything a person could desire, found himself tormented by the unpredictable swings of his own heart. In times of victory and celebration, he would become arrogant and reckless. In times of defeat and loss, he would fall into a deep and inconsolable despair. He summoned the wisest minds in his kingdom and gave them a challenge. "Create for me a ring," he said, "and on it inscribe a message that can temper my elation when I am triumphant, and bring me solace when I am in despair. It must be a truth that is always and forever true." The wise men and women deliberated for a long time. Finally, they returned to the king and presented him with a simple gold band. The king looked at it. Engraved in the metal were 4 simple words: "This too shall pass." The king understood immediately. In his moments of greatest victory, looking at the ring would remind him that his power and glory were fleeting, fostering humility. In his moments of deepest sorrow, the same words would be a beacon of hope, a promise that his pain was not a permanent state, but a temporary storm that would, in time, pass. This simple phrase, "This too shall pass," can become a powerful practice. When you are in the grip of an old wound, when a traumatic memory surfaces and fills you with anxiety or dread, the feeling can seem absolute and eternal. It feels like, this is it. This is my reality now, forever. This belief in the permanence of our pain is the second arrow of hopelessness. The wisdom of Anika is the medicine for this hopelessness. You can acknowledge the pain and then gently remind yourself, this too shall pass. You are not denying the pain, you are recognizing its nature. You are reminding yourself that this feeling, this intensity, this despair is a temporary cloud, not the permanent sky. This insight does not necessarily make the pain vanish instantly, but it changes your relationship to it. It loosens the grip of panic. It introduces a sliver of light, a sense of space around the pain. It allows you to endure what feels unendurable, knowing that you will not be stuck here forever, because nothing is ever stuck forever. The river is always flowing. The liberating power of Anika is that it reveals our suffering to be a process, not a thing. A solid, permanent problem is terrifying, but a temporary, flowing process, however painful, is something we can navigate. It is the difference between being trapped in a sealed room and being in a moving current. The current may be rough, but at least it is going somewhere. When we truly deeply understand that everything is in flux, the impulse to cling begins to naturally relax. Why hold so tightly to a cloud? Why build a fortress on a wave? Why define our entire being by a story that is itself as impermanent as the breath we are breathing right now? This leads us to the next, even more profound inquiry. If everything we experience, our body, our feelings, our thoughts, our world is impermanent and in constant flow, then what about the experiencer? What about the I who feels wounded, the self who is observing this ceaseless change? If all the component parts are constantly changing, can the entity they create be anything other than a changing process itself? This question leads us to the very heart of our perceived identity and to the deepest freedom of all. We have followed the wisdom of impermanence, Anika, to a liberating truth that everything we experience is in a state of constant flow. Our thoughts, our feelings, our bodily sensations are all like clouds passing through the vast sky of awareness. We have seen that clinging to any of these temporary phenomena is a source of suffering, but this leads to the deepest and most transformative question of all. We have been observing this flow, but who or what is the observer? We speak of my body, my thoughts, my pain. Where is this I, this me, this my, that owns and experiences all of this? We now turn the lens of inquiry around, away from the objects of experience and toward the presumed subject, the self. And what we find here, in this final turning, is the most profound freedom. This is the wisdom of Anatta, often translated as no self, or more accurately, not self. At first, the idea of no self can be frightening. It sounds like annihilation, like a declaration that we do not exist. But this is a misunderstanding. Anatta is not a denial of our existence. It is a radical re-understanding of it. It does not say you don't exist. It says you do not exist in the way you think you do. We tend to experience ourselves as a noun, a fixed, solid, continuous entity, a little person who lives inside our skin, looking out through our eyes. We are the CEO in the control room of the mind, the ghost in the machine, the permanent soul that carries our history, our personality, and our wounds. This path invites us to see that the self is not a noun, but a verb. It is not a thing, but a process. It is not a fixed entity, but a dynamic, ever-changing pattern of activity. Let's go on a search for this fixed self. Where would we find it? Is it in the body? We have already seen that the body is a constantly changing collection of cells. It is not the same today as it was a decade ago, so the self cannot be the body. Is it in our feelings? We have seen that feelings are like waves, rising and falling, never staying the same for long. So the self cannot be our feelings. Is it in our thoughts? Thoughts are even more fleeting, a constant stream of mental chatter. A single thought has no more substance than a soap bubble, so the self cannot be our thoughts. We can look at our memories, our beliefs, our desires, our fears, and we will find the same thing. All of it is in process. All of it is changing. When we look with this honest, investigative eye, we cannot find a single, solid, independent I anywhere. What we find instead is a collection of interconnected processes. In Buddhist psychology, these are called the 5 aggregates, or the 5 heaps. There is the heap of physical form, the body. There is the heap of feelings. There is the heap of perceptions, the labels our mind puts on things. There is the heap of mental formations, which includes our thoughts, habits, and impulses. And there is the heap of consciousness itself, the simple knowing of the other 4. Our sense of self is nothing more than the temporary coming together of these 5 flowing interdependent processes. It is like the word fist. A fist is real. It can knock on a door. But if you open the hand and look for the fist, where has it gone? Was it a solid thing? Number fist was simply a convenient name for a particular arrangement of fingers in a palm. In the same way, self is a convenient label for a particular temporary arrangement of body, feelings, perceptions, thoughts, and consciousness. There is no separate, permanent I standing behind these processes, directing them. The processes themselves are all there is. A classic philosophical puzzle from ancient Greece illustrates this perfectly. It is the paradox of the ship of Theseus. The famous ship that the hero Theseus sailed is preserved in a harbor as a museum piece. Over the years, its wooden planks begin to rot. To preserve it, each time a plank rots, it is carefully replaced with a new one of an identical kind. This goes on for centuries until eventually not a single one of the original planks remains. The question is this: is the ship in the harbor still the ship of Theseus? And further, if you had collected all the old discarded planks and reassembled them, which one would be the real ship? There is no easy answer because the question assumes that shipness is a solid, unchanging essence. In reality, the ship is a pattern, a process that maintains a semblance of continuity even as all of its constituent parts change. You are like the ship of Theseus. Your cells are constantly being replaced. Your thoughts are new every moment. The you that began listening to this is not the exact same collection of physical and mental components as the you who is hearing these words right now. You are not a static object. You are a living pattern, a flowing river of existence. What does this profound insight have to do with our emotional wounds? Everything. The deepest pain of our trauma comes from the feeling that the wound is attached to the very core of our being. We feel that I was wounded and that this wound is now a permanent part of me. The story of our trauma becomes fused with our sense of self. It feels like a deep stain on an immortal soul. The wisdom of Anatta is the ultimate solvent for this fusion. If there is no solid, unchanging, permanent self, then there is nothing for the wound to permanently stick to. The pain is real. The memory is real, but it is an impersonal process flowing through the 5 aggregates. It is a painful thought. It is a painful feeling. It is a painful sensation in the body, but it is not you. It is not your essence. It is not who you are. When the thought arises, I am broken, we can now meet it with a gentle, wise inquiry. Which I is broken? Is my body in this moment broken? Is this particular thought broken? Is this feeling broken? We see that these are just temporary events. By deconstructing the I, we depersonalize the pain. The heavy, crushing weight of my trauma becomes the lighter, more manageable experience of, there is a memory of trauma being experienced now. It loses its personal charge, its sting. The story is no longer a life sentence defining a permanent self, but just a story. A cloud passing through the vast, empty, and accommodating sky of awareness. This does not invalidate the pain. In fact, it allows us to finally hold it with true compassion, because we are no longer afraid that it will stain or break a precious solid self. We are the sky, not the cloud. The sky is never damaged by even the most violent storm. With this trilogy of insights, we have built a powerful foundation for liberation. We have seen the reality of suffering, dukkha. We have understood its fleeting, impermanent nature, anicca. And we have seen, through the illusion of a solid, separate self to whom it is happening, anatta. Armed with this profound understanding of the nature of reality and our own experience, we are no longer helpless victims of our own minds. We are now equipped with the clarity and the courage to look directly at the specific mechanisms, the mental habits that create suffering in the first place. We can now turn our attention to the 3 fundamental poisons of the mind, the engines that drive the entire cycle of pain, and learn, with this newfound wisdom, how to transform them into medicine. Having journeyed through the foundational truths of existence, the reality of our dis-ease, dukkha, the ever-flowing nature of all things, anicca, and the empty, process-like nature of the self, Anatta have arrived at a place of profound clarity. With this new lens, we are no longer looking at our own minds through a fog of confusion. We are like a scientist who has finally adjusted the microscope to the correct magnification. We can see things as they truly are. And from this vantage point, we are now able to diagnose the precise root causes of our suffering. We are ready to identify the deep, underlying pathogens that give rise to the fever and ache of our emotional wounds. The wisdom of this path describes these fundamental causes not as sins or moral failures, but as poisons or fires that burn in the heart. There are 3 of them, and they are the source of all our self-created misery. They are greed, hatred, and delusion. Let us first examine the poison of greed. In the Pali language, this is lobha or raga. When we hear the word greed, we typically think of an insatiable desire for money, power, or material possessions. While that is one of its manifestations, its meaning here is far deeper and more subtle. Greed is the fundamental energy of pulling toward. It is the voice of the hungry ghost within, the part of us that is always wanting, craving, clinging, and attaching. It is the deep-seated belief that our happiness and safety depend on getting something from the outside world, or on a particular internal state lasting forever. It is the constant whisper of, I need, I want, I must have. Now, let us see how this poison specifically fuels the suffering of our emotional wounds. When we are haunted by a painful past, the energy of greed manifests as a desperate craving for a different history. We become attached to fantasies of what might have been, pulling a non-existent, idealized past toward us, which only makes the reality of the present feel more painful. Greed also manifests as a craving for relief. We desperately want the pain to go away, and so we cling to any distraction that offers temporary numbness food, work, entertainment. We become attached to these fleeting states of non-feeling and feel immense anxiety when they end. Most subtly, we can even become attached to our own suffering, clinging to the identity of the wounded person because it is familiar, because it has defined us for so long. Greed is this constant, tense motion of reaching for what is not here, a movement that guarantees we can never find peace in what is. The second poison is hatred, or dosa in Pali. This is the equal and opposite energy of greed. If greed is the motion of pulling toward, hatred is the violent energy of pushing away. It is aversion, ill will, anger, resentment, frustration, irritation, and judgment. It is the voice that shrieks, "Get this away from me. I can't stand it." Its connection to our emotional wounds is immediate and obvious. We feel an intense aversion to the painful memory itself. We push it down, we try to suppress it, we fight it whenever it begins to surface. This internal battle is utterly exhausting and is precisely what prevents the memory from being processed and integrated. We also feel hatred for the person or circumstances that caused us harm, replaying the injustice over and over, steeping our own hearts in the poison of resentment. But perhaps the most insidious form of this poison is the aversion we turn upon ourselves. We hate ourselves for feeling the pain. We judge our anxiety, our fear, our tears as signs of weakness. We push away our own vulnerability. This self-aversion, this inner war, is like trying to heal a physical wound by repeatedly striking it with a hammer. The very act of pushing away our experience is what holds it so tightly in place. The energy we expend resisting our pain is the energy that gives it its power over us. These two poisons, the pulling of greed and the pushing of hatred, are like two branches of a great tree, but they both grow from the same root, the same trunk. This is the third and most fundamental poison, delusion or moha in Pali. Delusion does not mean stupidity, it means ignorance. It means not seeing things clearly. It is the primordial fog of misperception that prevents us from seeing the true nature of reality. It is this very delusion that we have been working to dispel with the three great insights. We are deluded when we fail to see the truth of dukkha, when we believe that lasting, permanent happiness can be found in the fleeting objects of our craving. We are deluded when we fail to see the truth of anicca, when we believe that things are solid and permanent. Thus we try to cling to what is pleasant and push away what is unpleasant, fighting a futile battle against the flow of life itself. And most profoundly, we are deluded when we fail to see the truth of anatta, when we believe in a solid, separate self, which causes us to take everything personally, to feel that I am the target of life's arrows, and to defend this imaginary self at all costs. This delusion is the dark, fertile soil in which the seeds of greed and hatred sprout and flourish. It is because we do not see clearly that we constantly reach for things that will ultimately bring us pain and push away the very experiences that could be our greatest teachers. These three poisons feed each other in a vicious, self-perpetuating cycle. Out of delusion, We believe our trauma defines a permanent self. Because we believe this, we crave a reality where the trauma never happened, greed, and we feel intense aversion to the memories and feelings associated with it, hatred. This clinging and aversion creates more tension and suffering, which reinforces our deluded belief that we are a permanently broken self. To truly heal, we cannot just address the greed or the hatred. We must shine a light on the delusion that underpins them both. Imagine you go to a wise physician. You complain of a terrible fever, a painful rash, and a deep aching exhaustion. These are your symptoms. Your anxiety, your anger, your sadness. A foolish doctor might give you a pill to lower the fever and a cream for the rash. This is like trying to manage your anger or distract yourself from your sadness. The relief is temporary. A wise physician, however, recognizes these as symptoms of a deeper problem. She takes a sample of your blood and looks at it under a microscope. There, she discovers the underlying infection, the bacteria that is causing all the symptoms. She knows that to truly cure you, she must treat the infection itself. Greed, hatred, and delusion are the bacteria. They are the underlying spiritual infection. The path of wisdom is not about endlessly managing the symptoms of our unhappiness. It is about systematically and patiently uprooting its cause. To identify these poisons operating within us is not a cause for despair. It is a moment of profound hope. A diagnosis, after all, is the first step toward a cure. For a wise physician, having identified the specific pathogen, does not throw up her hands in defeat. She turns to her cabinet of medicines. For every poison, she knows there is a specific and powerful antidote. And this is true for the poisons of the mind as well. For the fiery poison of hatred, there is the cooling balm of loving kindness and compassion. For the grasping poison of greed, there is the liberating medicine of generosity and letting go. And for the dark, foggy poison of delusion, there is the bright, clear light of wisdom. Our path forward is now clear. We must learn about these antidotes. We must learn how, with skillful and patient practice, to administer them to our own hearts and begin the alchemical process of transforming the very energies that have caused us so much pain into the very substance of our freedom. Having identified the three poisons of greed, hatred, and delusion, our path forward becomes clear. The initial, logical response is one of replacement. When the poison of hatred arises, we apply the antidote of loving kindness. When grasping greed appears, we practice letting go. This is a valid and powerful stage of the practice. It is like carefully removing weeds from a garden and planting flowers in their place. But there exists a deeper, more profound form of spiritual alchemy, a practice that does not simply discard the poison, but seeks to transform its very substance into medicine. It asks the radical question: what if the raw, volatile energy of the poison itself could be harnessed and used as the fuel for our awakening? This is not about condoning anger or indulging in craving. It is the ultimate form of inner recycling, a sacred art where nothing is wasted, and even our most destructive energies can be skillfully transmuted into the light of wisdom. This alchemical view begins with a shift in perspective. We learn to see that our emotions are not simply good or bad. At their core, they are pure energy. Anger, for example, possesses an immense and fiery power. In an untrained mind, this fire is destructive. It lashes out, burns bridges, and consumes the one who feels it in a blaze of self-righteousness. But what if we could step back from the story and simply feel the energy itself? It is potent, it is sharp, it is focused. This raw energy is not inherently negative. In fact, it often arises from a deeply positive place. The fire of anger can be the fierce cry of our heart for justice. It can be a powerful protective energy that rises up when a boundary has been violated. It can be the part of us that says with absolute clarity, "This is not right." Similarly, the cold grip of fear contains the wisdom of caution. It shines a spotlight on what is precious to us, on what we are afraid to lose. And the profound ache of grief is a direct testament to the depth of our love. If we had not loved so much, we would not grieve so deeply. From this perspective, our most difficult emotions are not enemies to be vanquished. They are powerful, misunderstood messengers, carrying vital information and potent fuel, if only we have the courage to listen to their deeper truth instead of just reacting to their noise. Let us take the fiery energy of anger as a practical example. Imagine a memory of a past injustice surfaces and with it comes a familiar surge of hot, bitter anger. Our habitual reaction might be to suppress it, to tell ourselves we shouldn't be angry, which is like trying to put a lid on a boiling pot. Or we might indulge it, replaying the story, feeding our resentment, and letting the fire burn wildly. The alchemical path offers a third way. First, we acknowledge the anger without judgment. We give it permission to be here. We feel its energy in the body, the heat in the chest, the tension in the jaw, the impulse to lash out. We simply sit with the raw energy. Then, instead of focusing on the person or event that triggered it, we gently turn our inquiry inward. We can ask with genuine curiosity, what is this fire trying to protect? Or, what is the vulnerable place that lies beneath this hard shell of rage? If we stay with this inquiry, we almost always find that beneath the anger, there is a soft, tender core of deep hurt. There is fear. There is a feeling of powerlessness. There is the pain of the original wound. When we are able to connect with this vulnerable place, our entire inner landscape shifts. We are no longer an angry warrior seeking vengeance. We have become a compassionate friend, sitting with a part of ourselves that is deeply hurting. The fierce energy of the anger has not been destroyed. It has been transmuted. Its purpose has shifted from outward attack to inward care. The fire that once threatened to burn down the house is now the fire in the hearth, providing the warmth needed for healing. We can apply the same principle to the grasping energy of craving. When a powerful longing arises, a longing for a person, a substance, a past moment of happiness, or simply a desperate craving for our present pain to endure habit, is to be swept away by it, to become a slave to the wanting. The alchemical approach is to look directly at the longing itself. What is its nature? What is the true need that lies beneath this specific desire? The desperate longing for a past moment of happiness is not really about that specific moment. It is a deep, universal longing for peace, for joy, for connection. The craving for our pain to end is a deep, universal longing for ease and safety. When we see the pure, noble aspiration at the root of the craving, we can connect with that deeper need directly. We can offer ourselves the medicine of compassion and loving kindness, satisfying the true hunger of the heart, rather than chasing the empty calories of the fleeting object of our desire. The grasping energy of "I want that" is transformed into the wise aspiration of "May I find true well-being." The most powerful metaphor for this entire process is that of the lotus flower. The lotus is a symbol of purity, beauty, and enlightenment throughout the East. Its blossoms are immaculate, fragrant, and seem to float above the world. But where does this perfect flower grow? It does not grow on a pristine mountaintop or in a carefully manicured garden. The lotus grows only in thick, dark, smelly mud. The mud is an indispensable ingredient for the beauty of the lotus. Without the mud, there is no lotus. In our lives, the mud is our pain. It is our confusion, our grief, our failures, our emotional wounds. This path does not teach us to try and avoid the mud or to pretend it isn't there. It teaches us how to plant the seed of our awareness right in the middle of it, trusting that this very suffering, this very difficulty, can become the rich, fertile ground from which our own lotus of wisdom, compassion, and clarity can bloom. Seen in this light, our trauma is not a curse. It can become our greatest teacher. It is the very event that breaks our heart open, that shatters our complacency, that forces us to seek a deeper meaning and a more authentic way of being in the world. There is no greater testament to this principle of transformation than the life story of the great Tibetan yogi, Milarepa. As a young man, driven by revenge, Milarepa studied black magic and used it to kill many of his relatives and destroy the crops of his entire village. He committed the most terrible of acts. Afterwards, he was consumed by a remorse and a terror of the karmic consequences so intense that it was unbearable. This agony, this profound poison of guilt and fear, became the driving force of his quest for spiritual liberation. It gave him an unshakable resolve. When he found his teacher, Marpa, he was subjected to immense hardships, forced to build and tear down stone towers by hand until his body was a mass of open sores. But the fire of his remorse was so strong that he never gave up. He used the very energy of his past sins as the fuel for his practice, and eventually, through his unwavering determination, he attained complete enlightenment, becoming one of the most beloved saints in Tibetan history. His story teaches us a profound truth. No matter how dark our past, no matter how potent the poisons in our heart, that very energy, when harnessed by wisdom and compassion, can be turned into the path itself. This alchemical process of turning our greatest wounds into our greatest wisdom often requires a deep and honest reckoning with the people and events of our past. To fully metabolize the pain that was caused by others, or even the pain we have caused ourselves, we must approach one of the most challenging and liberating practices on the path of healing. We must learn to untie the knot of resentment and self-blame through the often misunderstood art of forgiveness. Having learned to alchemize the raw energy of our emotions, we arrive at the final stage of this transformative work, the reckoning with the past that is necessary to truly clear our inner landscape. To fully metabolize the pain we carry, especially pain that was caused by the actions of others, we must engage with one of the most powerful and most resisted concepts on the spiritual path: forgiveness. For many of us, the very word is a barrier. It can feel like a profound injustice, a demand that we betray ourselves. Forgive them, the mind cries out. After what they did? They don't deserve it. What they did was unforgivable. If this is your reaction, know that it is valid and deeply human. The resistance you feel is a testament to the depth of your wound. And so, it is crucial that we begin by understanding what forgiveness is not. In this path of wisdom, forgiveness is not a gift we give to the person who harmed us. It is a gift of liberation that we finally, compassionately give to ourselves. Let us dismantle the myths that make forgiveness seem impossible. First, forgiveness is not condoning. It is not in any way saying that the harmful action was acceptable or okay. The harm was real. The pain was real. The injustice was real. Forgiveness does not erase the truth of what happened. It does not require you to pretend that a wrong was not a wrong. You can forgive someone completely while still holding the clear view that their actions were destructive and harmful. Second, forgiveness is not forgetting. It is not an induced amnesia. The memory of the event may remain with you for the rest of your life. Forgiveness is about changing your relationship with that memory. It is the process of draining the memory of its power to cause you suffering in the present moment. The memory becomes a scar, not an open wound. You can touch it without flinching. It is a part of your history, but it is no longer the defining story of your life. Third, and perhaps most importantly, forgiveness does not require reconciliation. It does not mean you have to speak to the person again, trust them again, or allow them back into your life. Forgiveness is a completely internal process. It happens within your own heart, for your own benefit. You can forgive someone who is no longer in your life, or even someone who has passed away. You can forgive someone while simultaneously maintaining the firm, healthy boundary of never seeing them again. The most potent metaphor for this process is a simple one. Holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. We keep the story of our grievance alive, we fuel it with our anger, we replay the injustice over and over in our minds, hoping that somehow this inner turmoil will punish the person who hurt us. But they go on with their lives, often completely unaware of the torment we are putting ourselves through. The only person being harmed by the poison of our resentment is us. It is our own heart that becomes bitter, our own body that is filled with the stress hormones of perpetual anger. Forgiveness is the act of looking at the cup of poison in our hand, seeing clearly that it is only hurting us, and making the conscious, compassionate decision to put it down. It is not for them. It is for you. It is the ultimate act of self-care. The process itself is not a single decision, but a gradual softening, a slow unclenching of the fist. It begins with the first step of all true healing, acknowledging the pain fully. We cannot forgive a wound we have not allowed ourselves to feel. We must give ourselves permission to grieve what was lost, to feel the righteous anger, to honor the reality of our hurt without judgment. Then, when we feel ready, we can begin to shift our perspective. A powerful, though difficult step is to try and see the suffering of the person who harmed us. This does not excuse their behavior, but it can depersonalize it. We can try to see them not as a two-dimensional villain, but as a human being trapped in their own poisons of greed, hatred, and delusion. Their harmful actions arose from their own suffering, their own blindness. Seeing this does not make the pain go away, but it can loosen the knot of personal injury. We can then consciously recognize the price we are paying for not forgiving. We can feel the tension in our body, the space our resentment takes up in our mind, the joy it steals from our present moment. From this place of clarity, we can set a simple, gentle intention. For the sake of my own peace, for the health of my own heart, I am willing to begin the process of letting this go. This same compassionate lens must then be turned upon ourselves, for often the person we find it hardest to forgive is the one we see in the mirror. We hold deep grudges against ourselves for past mistakes, for not being stronger, for not seeing the truth sooner, for not leaving a harmful situation earlier. We become our own harshest critic. The process of self-forgiveness is the same. We must acknowledge the pain of our own perceived failings. We must see our past self with compassion, recognizing that we were doing the best we could with the understanding and the resources we had at that time. We were acting from our own level of delusion, and then we must offer ourselves the same grace, the same release from the prison of self-blame. We must be willing to forgive ourselves for being imperfectly human. There is the story of the great Thai meditation master, Ajahn Chah. While walking barefoot through the forest, he was bitten by a poisonous snake. As his disciples began to panic, he remained perfectly calm and instructed them on how to suck out the venom and treat the wound. Later, when he was recovering, one of them asked him, "Weren't you angry at the snake that bit you?" Ajahn Chah looked at him with gentle confusion. "Why would I be angry at the snake?" he replied. "The snake was just being a snake. It is its nature to bite when it feels threatened. Getting angry at the snake is useless. It doesn't help the wound. The only intelligent thing to do is to focus all of your energy on treating the bite." This simple story contains a universe of wisdom. The people who have harmed us were acting out of their own snake nature. They were acting from their own poisons, their own fears, their own conditioning. To spend our precious life energy hating the snake is pointless. It does not heal us. The only wise and compassionate course of action is to turn our full attention inward and commit ourselves completely to healing our own wound. Forgiveness is the final, essential step in treating the bite. Through the transformative alchemy of our difficult emotions and the liberating release of forgiveness, we have done the profound work of clearing our inner landscape. The ghosts of the past have been seen, held with compassion, and allowed to rest. The inner courtroom has been replaced by a sanctuary of warmth and kindness. We have established a deep and abiding peace within ourselves. The great journey inward has borne its fruit. The question now becomes, how do we live from this place? How do we carry this inner sanctuary with us out into the world, with all its demands, its challenges, and its beautiful imperfections? The final stage of our journey is one of integration, of learning to weave this newfound peace into the very fabric of our daily lives. Having undertaken the profound inner work of transforming poisons and offering forgiveness, we have cultivated a spacious and peaceful landscape within our own hearts. We have found a sanctuary. The great temptation now is to treat this peace as a delicate, fragile thing that can only be experienced in the silence of meditation, separate from the chaos of our ordinary lives. We risk creating a division, a split between our spiritual life on the cushion and our real life at the office, in the kitchen, or in traffic. But the true fruit of this path is not to have beautiful meditations. It is to live a beautiful life. The ultimate practice is one of integration, of weaving the qualities of mindfulness, clarity, and compassion that we have nurtured in silence into the very fabric of our every waking moment. It is about closing the gap between who we are in stillness and who we are in motion until there is no gap left at all. To do this, we can think of our practice as having two wings. The first is formal practice, the time we intentionally set aside each day to sit with our breath and look deeply into our minds. This is like going to a gymnasium to build a particular muscle. It is focused, intentional, and essential for developing our capacity for mindfulness. The second wing is informal practice. This is where we take the muscle we have built in the gym and use it in the world. This is where the real transformation happens. Informal practice is the art of turning our entire life into a meditation, of discovering the sacred in the mundane, and of finding countless opportunities for presence in moments we previously rushed through on autopilot. Let us begin with the most fundamental of human actions, walking. For most of us, walking is simply a way to get from point A to point B. Our body moves through space, while our mind is somewhere else entirely lost in planning, worrying, or rehashing the past. We can transform this unconscious habit into a profound practice of walking meditation. It does not require a special location or any extra time. It simply requires a shift in attention. As you walk, whether it is from your car to your front door or down a hallway at work, intentionally slow your pace just a little. Bring your attention out of the noisy world of your thoughts and into the soles of your feet. Feel the solid ground beneath you. Feel the entire sensation of a single step, the lifting of your heel, your foot moving through the space, the gentle landing of your heel on the ground, the shifting of your weight forward, the feeling of your toes pressing down just before the foot lifts again. Each step can be an anchor in the present moment. Each footfall on the earth can be a gentle reminder, I am here, now. You are no longer just hurtling through space to get to the next destination. You are fully arriving with every step you take. The destination becomes every moment, and the journey itself becomes a source of peace. We can bring this same ceremonial attention to another daily activity we often perform with complete unconsciousness, eating. For many of us, a meal is something to be consumed as quickly as possible while we do something else, like watching television, answering emails, or scrolling through our phones. We barely taste our food. We ignore our body's signals of hunger and fullness. We can reclaim this act and turn it into a rich and nourishing practice of mindful eating. Before you take the first bite, pause. Take a moment to simply look at the food on your plate. Contemplate, just for a moment, all the causes and conditions that had to come together for this meal to be here. The sun, the rain, the soil, the seeds. The work of the farmer who grew it, the person who transported it, the one who prepared it. Let a natural sense of gratitude arise for all this interconnectedness. Then, as you begin to eat, engage all of your senses. Notice the colors, the textures, the aromas. Take one bite and then put your fork down. Just chew. Chew slowly and try to taste every flavor. Notice the impulse of the mind to immediately reach for the next bite, to rush ahead. Just stay with the experience of this one bite until you have swallowed. Then pause again before taking the next. By doing this, you are not only enjoying your food more, you are nourishing your body and mind with your full presence. You are learning to be satisfied with the simple reality of the present moment. This quality of presence can transform our relationships. So much of our communication is not a true meeting of two people, but a collision of two monologues. When we are listening to someone, we are often not listening at all. We are waiting for them to take a breath so that we can jump in with our own story, our own advice, our own judgment. Our mind is busy formulating a reply. We are hearing the words, but we are missing the person. The practice of deep listening is the conscious choice to offer another human being the rare and precious gift of our undivided attention. As they speak, we anchor ourselves in our breath. We simply listen. We listen not just to what is being said, but to what is being felt. We listen to the silence between the words. We notice our own mind's urge to interrupt, to fix, to judge, and we simply let that urge be, returning our attention to the person in front of us. This practice can heal relationships. It creates a space of safety and trust, where the other person feels truly seen and heard, perhaps for the first time. It is a profound act of compassion. Even the most mundane chores can become opportunities for practice. The great Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh was once asked by a student how to practice mindfulness outside of the meditation hall. He famously replied, "When you wash the dishes, just wash the dishes." This means that while you are at the sink, with the warm water and the soap, you are not mentally planning your next meeting or regretting a past conversation. You are fully present with the act of washing. You feel the warmth of the water on your hands. You feel the smooth, curved surface of the plate. You notice the smell of the soap. You are not rushing through the task in order to get to the better part of your day, such as drinking a cup of tea. Instead, you realize that the moments you spend washing the dishes are just as much a part of your precious life as the moments you spend drinking the tea. You can bring the same quality of attention to folding laundry, to sweeping the floor, to making your bed. By doing so, you infuse these simple, repetitive tasks with a quality of grace and dignity. There are no longer any throwaway moments in your day. Every moment becomes an opportunity to be awake. By weaving mindfulness into these everyday activities, we build a foundation of presence and stability. Our baseline state becomes one of greater calm and clarity. This makes us more resilient, less likely to be thrown off balance by minor irritations. But life, as we know, is not always minor irritations. Sometimes, without warning, a great storm will arise, a sudden piece of bad news, a sharp conflict, a surge of panic from an old wound. In these moments of intense emotional activation, we may not have the luxury of a slow, contemplative walking meditation or a 30-minute sit. We need a form of emotional first aid, a practical, in-the-moment tool that can help us find our center when we feel like we are about to be swept away. By weaving threads of mindfulness into the fabric of our day, into our walking, our eating, our listening, we create a life that is more present, more grounded, and more imbued with a quiet sense of grace. This informal practice builds a steady foundation of inner peace. But we are human. and our world is unpredictable. There will be times when this calm foundation is violently shaken. A sudden critical email appears in your inbox. A driver cuts you off in traffic. A casual conversation turns into a heated argument. A sight or sound unexpectedly triggers the memory of an old wound. In these moments, the carefully cultivated peace can vanish in an instant. The alarm bells of the nervous system begin to shriek. The monkey mind hijacks our consciousness, and we are thrown back into the primitive, reactive patterns of fight, flight, or freeze. In the heat of such a moment, there is no time to sit on a cushion for 20 minutes. We need a form of spiritual first aid. We need a simple, portable, and powerful tool that can act as an emergency brake for the mind, a rescue practice that we can use anywhere, anytime, to pull ourselves back from the brink of reactivity. This tool is captured in the simple, elegant acronym, STOP. The first step, and arguably the most powerful, is S for stop. This sounds deceptively simple, but it is a profoundly radical act. When we are triggered, our entire being is conditioned for momentum. We are propelled by a powerful biological and psychological inertia to react, to immediately send the angry text, to shout the cutting remark, to slam the door and flee the room. To stop is to defy this powerful current. It means literally freezing the action in its tracks. If you are about to speak, close your mouth. If you are typing, take your hands off the keyboard. If you are standing up in anger, feel your feet on the floor and become still. This single act of stopping is a pattern interrupt. It breaks the hypnotic, unconscious chain of stimulus and reaction. It does not solve the problem or make the difficult feeling go away, but it achieves something far more important. It stops you from making the situation worse. It is the moment you realize you are in a storm-tossed boat heading for the rocks, and you consciously choose to drop the anchor. The storm still rages, but for a moment you are no longer being driven by it. You have created a pause. Within the sacred space of this pause, we take the second step, T for take a breath. Again, this is not a casual suggestion to just relax. It is a direct and deliberate physiological intervention. In this moment, you intentionally bring your full attention to the breath. You take one slow, conscious breath, then another, and perhaps a third. You don't have to breathe in a special way, but it is often helpful to make the exhalation a little longer and slower than the inhalation. Feel the cool air entering your body and feel the sensation of release as you breathe out. This conscious breathing is a direct communication to your nervous system. It is a signal sent up the vagus nerve to the primal alarm centers of the brain. It says, the immediate life or death threat has passed. You can stand down. It is the application of the parasympathetic brake pedal. As the body's alarm system begins to quiet down, the prefrontal cortex, the wise, rational, and compassionate part of our brain is able to come back online. You are literally breathing yourself back into your right mind, moving from a state of pure reactivity to one where conscious choice becomes possible again. Now, with the anchor dropped and the brain beginning to come back online, we move to the third step, O for observe. In the space created by stopping and breathing, we can now look around with a gentle, non-judgmental curiosity. What is actually happening here? This observation has two parts, internal and external. First, we look inward. What am I thinking right now? We can notice the catastrophic stories the monkey mind is spinning. He always disrespects me. This is a disaster. We notice these as just thoughts, mental events, not necessarily as objective truth. Then, what am I feeling? We name the emotion to ourselves. This is anger. This is fear. This is deep hurt. Where do I feel it in my body? We bring our attention to the physical sensations, the tightness in the chest, the heat in the face, the knot in the stomach. We are simply taking an inventory of our inner landscape without trying to change it or judge it. Then, we can look outward. What is the reality of the external situation separate from my story about it? This process of observation creates a profound sense of perspective. We are no longer lost in the storm. We are the calm witness of the storm. Having stopped, taken a breath, and observed our inner and outer reality, we are now standing at a place of immense power. We have interrupted the unconscious habit, soothed our nervous system, and seen the situation with greater clarity. We are now ready for the final step. P for proceed. But we do not proceed from the same place of reactivity we were in just moments before. We proceed from a place of conscious choice. we can now ask ourselves a wise and compassionate question. Given the situation, and given what I am feeling, what is the most skillful, most helpful, or most compassionate thing to do right now? The answer might be very different from our initial impulse. It might be to respond to the email, but with carefully chosen words rather than raw anger. It might be to say nothing at all and walk away from the argument. It might be to set a firm but calm boundary. It might even be to offer a word of kindness to ourselves or the other person. The specific action is less important than the quality of awareness from which it arises. We are no longer a puppet being controlled by the strings of our conditioning. We are a conscious human being making a choice. Let's make this practical. Imagine you are driving home after a long, stressful day. The traffic is heavy. You are already feeling tense and tired. Suddenly, another car aggressively swerves into your lane, cutting you off and forcing you to slam on your brakes. The first arrow strikes. The immediate automatic reaction is a surge of rage. The monkey mind screams, "That idiot could have killed me." Your hand moves to the horn, and a string of angry curses forms on your lips. But you have been practicing. In that split second, you apply stop. You stop your hand from hitting the horn. You take one deep, slow breath, feeling the tight grip of your hands on the steering wheel. You observe the hot flush of anger in your chest, the violent thoughts, and you also observe the reality that the other car is already 200 feet ahead and speeding away. You are safe. The immediate danger is over. You observe that honking and shouting will achieve nothing except to escalate your own agitation and make you a more dangerous driver. From this place of clarity, you proceed. You choose to loosen your grip on the steering wheel. You take another breath and let it go. You turn your attention back to your own driving, to getting home safely. You have chosen your own peace over the futile satisfaction of being right. You have used this simple tool to rescue yourself from a spiral of useless, self-generating stress. This four-step practice is your ally in the unpredictable landscape of daily life. It is a tool you can use dozens of times a day to navigate difficult moments with grace and wisdom. It helps us protect the peaceful sanctuary we have built within, preventing the sudden storms of the world from demolishing it. By consistently applying this practice, we become more resilient, more compassionate, and more free. We have learned to manage the sudden emergencies of the day. Our final area of practice, then, is to learn how to consciously prepare the ground of our being for the deepest and most profound healing of all the healing that can only happen when we finally surrender into a night of deep restorative sleep. Having learned to navigate the sudden storms of the day with the stop practice, we now turn our attention to the gentle closing of the day, to the sacred time when we prepare for rest and deep healing. All day long, our bodies have been our faithful companions, carrying us through our challenges, absorbing the tensions of our work, our conflicts, and our worries. The body, as we know, keeps the score. It holds the unconscious memory of our past wounds in the form of chronic tension, of armoring, of holding patterns we are not even aware of. As we prepare for sleep, we can engage in a profound practice of homecoming, a gesture of gratitude and release for our physical self. This practice is a full-body scan meditation. It is not another task to achieve or a technique to perfect. It is simply an act of listening, an invitation offered to your body to finally let go of the burdens of the day and to rest in a state of deep, healing peace. Find a comfortable position, lying down on your back. Let your arms rest gently at your sides, your legs uncrossed. Allow your eyes to softly close. Take a few slow, deep breaths, and with each exhalation, feel yourself arriving more fully in this moment, in this room, in this body. Let go of the day that has passed. There is nothing left to do, nowhere else to be. This time is for you. This practice is like that of a wise and loving gardener at the end of the day. The gardener does not rush through the garden, criticizing the plants. Instead, they walk slowly, visiting each plant, each flower, each leaf. They offer water where it is needed. They gently remove a withered leaf. They check the soil. They offer their quiet, caring presence to each part of the garden, ensuring all is well for the night. We will now become this gardener for our own body, visiting each part with a gentle, non-judgmental, and loving attention. Bring your awareness all the way down to your feet. Become aware of the toes on your left foot. Can you feel them without wiggling them? Simply bring your mind's attention inside your toes. You may feel a tingling sensation, a warmth, a coolness, or perhaps nothing at all. Whatever you feel is perfectly fine. There is no right or wrong way to feel. Now, as you breathe in, imagine your breath traveling all the way down to your left toes. And as you breathe out, imagine all the tension in those toes softening, melting away. Now bring your awareness to the sole of your left foot, the arch, the heel, resting against the surface beneath you. Breathe in, bringing your kind attention to the whole foot. Breathe out and let it go. Let it become heavy and relaxed. Now, move to your right foot. Bring your awareness inside the toes of your right foot. Feel what is there. Breathe in, filling the toes with awareness. Breathe out, inviting them to release. Move your attention to the sole of the right foot, the arch, the heel. Breathing in, awareness. Breathing out, letting go completely. Both feet are now resting in a state of deep ease. Gently allow your awareness to travel up into your ankles and then into your lower legs. Feel the shin bones and the calf muscles of both legs. These muscles work so hard for us all day. As you breathe in, bring a sense of gratitude and awareness to your lower legs. As you breathe out, offer them a profound release. Feel them softening, melting into the surface beneath you. Now, bring your awareness to your knees, the front, the back, the complex joint within. Breathe in, feel the knees. Breathe out, let go of any tension held there. Allow your awareness to move up into the large, strong muscles of your thighs. Feel their weight, their volume. Let your in-breath fill your thighs with a warm, spacious attention. And with the out-breath, release them completely. Your legs, from the tips of your toes to the tops of your thighs, are now deeply relaxed, heavy, and at ease. Bring your attention now to your pelvic region. The hips, the buttocks, the groin. This is an area where we can hold deep unconscious tension. Simply notice what is here. As you breathe in, bring a soft, gentle awareness to this whole area. As you breathe out, imagine you are releasing a grip you didn't even know you were holding. Let this whole region soften and open. Allow your awareness to flow into your lower back. So often this area carries the burden of our stress. Breathe into any tightness or discomfort you may find here, not trying to force it away, but simply meeting it with a kind, spacious breath. On the out-breath, invite the muscles to release their holding, to spread out, to be supported. Now move your awareness to your abdomen. Feel the gentle, natural rise and fall of your belly with each breath. This is the rhythm of life. Rest your attention here for a few moments, just feeling this soft, gentle movement. Let your awareness expand upward into your chest, your heart center. This is the area that holds so much of our emotional life, our joys and our sorrows. Without needing to analyze anything, just feel the sensations in your chest. Let your breath be soft and kind here. Breathe in, creating space. Breathe out, softening. Now bring your awareness to your upper back and your shoulder blades, feeling their points of contact. Let the shoulder blades become heavy, melting downwards. Our shoulders are like shelves where we store the day's worries. With your next out breath, let these worries slide off the shelves. Let your shoulders fall away from your ears. Let them be truly at rest. Now, let your awareness flow down both of your arms simultaneously, down through your upper arms, your elbows, your forearms, and into your hands. Bring your attention to your hands. Feel the palms, the backs of the hands, and each finger one by one. Your hands have done so much today. As you breathe in, feel them. As you breathe out, let them go completely. They are utterly at rest. Your arms and hands are heavy and deeply relaxed. Gently bring your awareness to your neck and your throat, an area of communication and vulnerability. Invite the muscles in the back of your neck and the sides of your neck to soften. Let the throat feel open and relaxed. Now, bring your awareness to your face, the part of you that meets the world. Start with your jaw. So many of us clench our jaw without realizing it. Consciously, gently, invite your jaw to release. Let your teeth part slightly. Let your tongue rest softly in your mouth. Allow your cheeks to soften. Feel the delicate muscles around your eyes and invite them to let go. Feel your eyelids resting gently. And now, your forehead. Let it become smooth, wide, and open. Release any lingering frown or expression of concentration. Finally, bring your awareness to your entire scalp and to your whole head, letting it feel heavy and fully supported. Now, for a few final moments, expand your awareness to include your entire body, from the tips of your toes to the top of your head. Feel your whole body as a single, unified field of sensation. Feel the whole body breathing. Breathing as one. There is nothing to do, nothing to fix. You are simply resting in the warm, peaceful, living presence of your own body. You have come home. Having quieted the body and soothed the mind, you now rest in a state of gentle, open awareness. From this place of deep relaxation and safety, we can now use the quiet power of our imagination to build an inner sanctuary, a place of perfect peace and refuge we can return to whenever we need it. Your body is now resting in a state of quiet grace. The tensions of the day have been acknowledged and released. From this foundation of physical peace, we can now attend to the heart and mind, creating for ourselves an inner landscape of profound and unshakable safety. For those who have known trauma, the world, and even one's own mind can often feel like an unsafe place. The nervous system remains on high alert, always scanning for threat, unable to truly stand down. To heal, we must teach it, gently and patiently, what it feels like to be completely safe. We will do this now by building an inner sanctuary, a refuge of the heart, a place within your own imagination that is entirely your own, and to which you can retreat at any moment to find calm, comfort, and peace. This is not an escape from reality, but a resource for reality. It is the creation of an internal home base, a portable sanctuary that no one can ever take from you. Begin by allowing your imagination to gently awaken. You are going to bring to mind a place. This can be a place you know well, a cherished memory from your past perhaps, a sun-drenched beach from a childhood vacation, a quiet corner of a grandparent's garden, or a cozy armchair by a familiar fireplace. Or your place can be entirely imaginary, born of your deepest longings for peace. It might be a secluded cottage in a misty forest, a luminous cave filled with glowing crystals, a simple wooden room floating among the stars, or a soft cloud that holds you perfectly. There is no right or wrong place. The only thing that matters is that, for you, this place feels completely, utterly, and unconditionally safe and peaceful. Take a moment now to allow this place to arise in your mind's eye. Trust whatever comes. Now, let us bring this place to life, using all of your senses to make it vivid and real. First, look around you in your safe place. Take in the sights. What is the quality of the light here? Is it the warm, golden light of a late afternoon sun filtering through leaves? Is it the cool, silvery light of the moon on a calm sea? Or perhaps the soft, steady glow from a gentle inner radiance? Notice the colors that surround you, the deep, rich green of moss and ferns, the impossible turquoise of a tropical lagoon, the warm, earthy tones of wood and stone. Let your eyes wander over the details. See the intricate pattern on a single leaf, the delicate texture of a seashell, the gentle grain in a piece of wood. See everything that makes this place beautiful and peaceful to you. There is no hurry. Just rest your gaze on the beauty of your sanctuary. Now, bring your attention to the sounds of your safe place. What can you hear? Perhaps there is a profound and comforting silence, a quiet so deep you can feel it. Or maybe there are gentle, soothing sounds, the sound of a soft breeze whispering through pine trees, the rhythmic lapping of calm waves upon a sandy shore, the distant melodic song of a bird, the gentle crackling and popping of a fire in a hearth. Listen closely. Let these sounds be a balm for your ears, washing away the noise and harshness of the outer world. These are the sounds of safety, the sounds of peace. Next, notice the scents and aromas in the air of your sanctuary. What do you smell? Perhaps it is the clean, fresh scent of rain on dry earth, the salty, briny tang of the ocean breeze, the sweet, heavy fragrance of night-blooming jasmine or honeysuckle. Maybe it is the comforting, familiar smell of old books, of brewing tea, or of wood smoke hanging in the cool night air. Breathe in this scent deeply. Let it fill your lungs, and as it does, let it signal to your entire being that you are home, you are safe. Now, become aware of the physical feelings, the tactile sensations of being in this place. What do you feel on your skin? Perhaps a warm, gentle sun or a soft, caressing breeze. What are you sitting or lying on? Feel the support of cool, soft grass beneath you, or warm, fine-grained sand. Maybe you are wrapped in a cozy, heavy blanket, feeling its comforting weight upon you. What is the temperature here? Notice how it is perfectly comfortable, neither too hot nor too cold. Let your whole body drink in this feeling of perfect physical ease and comfort. And most importantly, bring your awareness to the emotional quality of this place. This is a place where you are completely and utterly safe. You are unconditionally welcome. You do not need to be anyone other than who you are right now. You do not need to perform, to prove yourself, or to be on guard. All of your defenses can fall away. There is nothing expected of you here. Feel this sense of profound safety. of deep peace, of finally being able to let go in your heart, in your belly, in your entire being. This is your refuge. This is your sanctuary. This is your true home. Think of the humble turtle. The turtle moves through the world slowly, its soft body vulnerable, but it carries its home, its safety, upon its back. It carries its own sanctuary with it wherever it goes. When danger appears, when the world feels threatening, the turtle does not need to run far. It simply has to draw its head, its legs, its entire being into its own shell, a perfect, portable fortress of safety. There, it can wait in peace until the danger has passed. This practice you are doing now is the building of your own inner shell. You are creating a sanctuary that you can carry with you always. It is a place you can learn to retreat to in a single moment with a single conscious breath. To make this refuge a strong and accessible resource, it is helpful to practice visiting it for just a few minutes each day. The more you visit, the more real and vivid it will become, and the easier it will be to access when you truly need it. Then, when you find yourself caught in a moment of high anxiety, or when you are lying in bed at night and your mind is racing with fearful thoughts, you can make a conscious choice. Instead of struggling with the anxious thoughts, instead of fighting the darkness, you can gently shift your attention. You can choose to go to your safe place. You can bring to mind the sights, the sounds, the smells, and most importantly, that deep feeling of unconditional safety. Let yourself rest there. Let your nervous system settle in this place of peace. You can stay there until your mind is calmed, and from that place of safety, you can allow yourself to drift gently into sleep with a body that is relaxed and at ease, and a mind that has a place of perfect safety to call home. We have created a profound sense of stability and peace in the present moment. We have tended to the wounds of the past and built a sanctuary for the now. From this stable, secure, and peaceful ground, we can now dare to look toward the future. But we will look not with the old eyes of fear and apprehension, but with a new intention, an intention to actively notice, cultivate, and celebrate the presence of joy, both in ourselves and in the world around us. We are now ready to learn how to consciously sow the seeds of happiness. Having built a safe inner refuge, a sanctuary of the heart, we have established a profound sense of security in the present moment. We know now that we have a place to retreat to when the world feels overwhelming. From this newfound ground of stability and peace, we can dare to open the door of our sanctuary and look out at the world again, but this time with different eyes. So much of our journey so far has been focused on healing, on being with our pain, on transforming our suffering. This is essential, foundational work. But healing is not just the absence of pain, it is also the active presence of joy. We will now turn our attention to the gentle, deliberate cultivation of this healing quality. We will learn to sow the seeds of joy in the garden of our own hearts. This practice is known as mudita, or sympathetic joy. When we have been through significant pain or trauma, our focus naturally narrows. The world can seem like a threatening place, and our inner landscape can feel barren and bleak, defined only by what we have lost. From this state of inner poverty, seeing the happiness, success, and good fortune of others can be painful. It can trigger our own sense of lack, our feeling of being left behind. It can stir up the poison of envy, a close cousin of resentment, which whispers that happiness is a finite resource, a pie that has been divided unfairly, and that someone else's large slice means less for us. This feeling, while painful, is an understandable defense of a wounded heart trying to protect itself from more pain. Mudita is the gentle, powerful antidote to this scarcity mindset. It is the practice of training the heart to rejoice in the happiness of others, to feel a genuine, selfless delight in their well-being. Mudita is the third of the four great qualities of the heart known as the divine abodes, alongside the loving kindness and compassion we have already explored. If loving kindness is the wish, may you be happy, and compassion is the wish, may you be free from suffering, then mudita is the joyful response, I am so happy that you are happy. It is the pure, unselfish joy a loving parent feels when watching their child succeed and flourish. It is the warmth that fills your heart when you see a close friend achieve a lifelong dream. The practice of mudita is the conscious effort to expand this natural, beautiful quality beyond our immediate circle, to feel it for friends, for strangers, and eventually for everyone. At its core is a radical re-understanding of the nature of joy. Joy is not a limited commodity. It is not a zero-sum game. Another person's happiness does not diminish your own. In fact, the opposite is true. By learning to connect with and celebrate the joy of others, you multiply the sources of joy available to you. You are no longer dependent solely on your own personal successes and pleasures to feel happy. You can now tap into the vast, abundant ocean of happiness that exists in the world at all times. The practice of mudita is a balm for the wounded heart. It gently pulls our focus away from our own narrative of lack and loss and opens our eyes to the goodness, beauty, and simple happiness that are always present in the world, even when we are personally struggling. It helps us to feel connected to others in a positive way rather than separated by our pain. When we see a group of friends laughing together in a park, instead of feeling a pang of loneliness, we can practice mudita. We can silently wish them, "May your joy continue. I am happy for your friendship." When a colleague receives a promotion, instead of feeling the sting of envy, we can try to connect with their feeling of accomplishment and silently offer, "I am happy for your success." This practice requires a gentle honesty. Some days it will be easier than others. The goal is not to force a feeling that isn't there, but to simply set the intention to plant the seed. How do we begin to cultivate this subtle and beautiful quality? Like all of these practices, we start where it is easiest. Bring to mind someone you love dearly, someone whose happiness is simple and uncomplicated for you to feel. It might be a beloved child, a cherished friend, a spouse, or even a playful pet. Picture them in a moment of pure, simple joy. See the light in their eyes, the smile on their face. As you hold this image in your mind, allow yourself to connect with their happiness. Let their joy be your joy. You can repeat the simple phrase internally, "I am happy for you. May your happiness and good fortune continue." Feel the warmth that this genuine well-wishing creates in your own heart. This is the feeling of mudita. Rest with it. Once you feel comfortable with this, you can begin to expand the circle. Think of a neutral person, someone you don't know well, but whose happiness you have witnessed. Perhaps a stranger you saw today laughing on the phone, or an artist whose beautiful work you admire. Bring this person to mind and try to offer them the same sincere wish. "I do not know you, but I am happy that you have this joy in your life. May it continue." Notice any resistance that comes up, any feeling of it being strange or difficult. Just notice it with kindness and return to the intention. The most advanced stage of this practice, one to be approached with great care and patience, is to try and offer a flicker of mudita to someone whose success you might normally envy or feel threatened by. This is not easy. It begins with simply recognizing their basic humanity, the fact that they, like you, just want to be happy. Perhaps you cannot fully rejoice in their success yet, but you can start with a simple acknowledgement. You are happy right now. That is a human experience. This small step begins to break down the walls of comparison and envy. There is a simple and beautiful image that captures the essence of mudita perfectly. Imagine a single candle burning in a vast, dark room. It has its own light, its own warmth, its own unique flame. Now, another candle, unlit, is brought to it. The first candle touches its flame to the wick of the second, and in an instant, the second candle bursts into light. In that moment of sharing, has the first candle lost anything? Has its flame been diminished? Number? Its light is just as bright as it was before. Now there are two flames. Together they light a third and a fourth, and then 100, then 1,000, until the entire dark room is filled with a brilliant, warm illumination. The original candle has not been depleted. It has simply participated in the creation of more light, and now it gets to exist in a room that is brighter and warmer for everyone. Joy is exactly like this. When you celebrate the happiness of another, you do not lose any of your own. You simply add to the total light in the world, a light that you also get to share in. Practicing mudita is the act of becoming a candle that delights in the lighting of others. We have now journeyed from the dark depths of our wounds to the courageous practice of cultivating joy. We have faced our pain, learned to befriend our minds and bodies, transformed our poisons into medicine, offered forgiveness, built a safe inner home, and learned to rejoice in the good. We have assembled all the tools we need, not just to heal, but to live a life of greater wisdom and freedom. And so, our journey comes full circle. We return to where we began, to the quiet darkness of the bedroom at the end of the day. But we do not return as the same person who started this journey. We are no longer a victim of the night, bracing for a battle with our own mind. We are a wise gardener, a compassionate host, a skilled mariner, ready to finally surrender into a night of deep and truly restorative sleep. using the oldest and most faithful friend we have, our breath. Our journey together is now coming full circle. We began in the quiet darkness of the night, in a space haunted by the echoes of our wounds, where sleep felt like a distant and unattainable shore. We have since journeyed through the deep landscape of the heart. We have faced the nature of our pain. We have met the chattering monkey of the mind. We have learned to surf the waves of our feelings. We have cultivated the boundless friendliness of Metta in the brave heart of Karuna. We have learned to let go of the past, to embrace the flow of the present, and to sow the seeds of future joy. We have gathered all the tools we need for our healing. And now, we return to the threshold of the night, but we do not return as the same person. We are no longer coming to the night as a battlefield, bracing ourselves for a struggle with our own thoughts. We are now prepared to approach our rest as a sacred ritual, a conscious act of surrender and release, a final, loving gift to ourselves at the end of the day. This ritual begins not when your head hits the pillow, but in the moments before. The first step is to create a sacred pause, a clear demarcation between the doing of the day and the being of the night. About 30 minutes before you intend to sleep, make the conscious choice to disconnect from the world of stimulation. Put away your phone, your tablet, your laptop. Turn off the television. The constant stream of information and the artificial blue light from these screens are like caffeine for your nervous system. They keep it buzzing, alert, and agitated. By turning them off, you are sending a powerful signal to your mind and body. The day's work is done. It is time to turn inward. Dim the lights in your room, perhaps light a candle. Move slowly. This is not about adding another chore to your list, but about creating an atmosphere of gentle, quiet reverence for the healing that is to come. Now, finding a comfortable position, either sitting on your bed or already lying down, take a few minutes for the second step. Clearing the heart, close your eyes, and bring your awareness to your breath. Allow the day to gently fall away. With a few soft exhalations, consciously release the burdens you have been carrying. Offer a quiet internal forgiveness for the day that has passed. Forgive yourself for any mistakes you made, for anything you wish you had done differently. Let it go. Forgive others for any small slights or irritations. Let them go. You do not need to carry these into your sleep. Then, offer yourself the gentle phrases of loving kindness as a lullaby for the heart. Silently repeat, "May I be safe as I sleep tonight. May I be peaceful. May my body find deep and restorative rest. May my mind be calm and at ease." Feel these wishes permeating your being, soothing the anxious parts of you and creating a warm, safe inner environment. The third step is to release the body. We will practice a short, gentle version of the body scan. As you are lying there, bring your awareness to your feet, and with a soft out-breath, give them permission to completely let go. Feel them become heavy and limp. Let this wave of relaxation move up into your legs, feeling them release their holding and sink into the mattress. Allow your hips and pelvis to soften. Let your belly be soft. Feel your back spreading out, supported completely by the surface beneath you. With an exhalation, let your shoulders drop away from your ears, releasing the last of the day's responsibilities. Feel your arms and hands become heavy and still. Soften your neck, your throat, and especially your jaw. Let your entire face melt into an expression of serene repose. Your whole body is now an anchor of stillness, signaling to your mind that it is finally time to rest. Now begins the final and most simple practice of all. As you lie there in the peaceful darkness, the only task that remains is to rest your attention on the gentle, natural rhythm of your breath. Do not try to control it or change it in any way. Simply feel the soft rising and falling of your chest or your belly. Let this gentle rhythm be your anchor. If you find your mind is still a little busy, you can use a simple counting technique to give it a gentle occupation. As you breathe in, silently count 1. As you breathe out, count 1. As you breathe in next, count 2. As you breathe out, count 2. Continue this way up to 10, and then simply begin again at 1. This is not a test. It does not matter if you ever reach 10. The purpose is not the counting itself, but the gentle, rhythmic anchor it provides for your attention. As you relax ever more deeply, thoughts, images, and memories from the day or from the distant past will inevitably drift through your mind. This is natural. The old habit, the habit of insomnia, is to grab onto one of these thoughts and follow it down a rabbit hole of worry or analysis, spinning a story that creates more and more agitation. The new practice, the practice of sleeping with the breath, is to treat these thoughts like distant clouds passing in the night sky. When a thought appears, you acknowledge it softly, without judgment. You might label it in your mind, a thought, or thinking, or a memory. And then, with infinite gentleness, you guide your attention back home, back to the simple, physical sensation of your breathing. The breath is your lullaby. The thought is just a faint noise from another room. You are choosing, again and again, to listen to the lullaby. Each time you return to the breath, you are deepening your state of peace. You are teaching your mind how to let go. Imagine a wise boatman at the end of a long day of navigating a great river. As night falls, he does not try to fight the river's powerful current or paddle upstream. That would be a foolish and exhausting struggle. Instead, he guides his small boat to the riverbank and finds a strong, sturdy tree with deep roots. He skillfully ties his boat to this tree with a secure rope. Then, he lies down in his boat and surrenders to the night. He trusts the strength of the tree and the rope. He allows his boat to be held, to float gently, to rise and fall with the river's natural rhythm, safe and secure. The great river is the ceaseless flow of life, of thought, of time. Your awareness is the small boat, and the sturdy, deeply rooted tree on the bank is your breath. Your practice tonight is simply to be this wise boatman. Tie your awareness gently to the anchor of your breath and then surrender. Trust it to hold you. Allow yourself to be rocked peacefully by the rhythms of the night. There is nothing more for you to do now. Simply rest. Let the breath breathe itself. Let sleep come in its own good time, like a soft blanket settling over you. This nightly ritual is the culmination of our journey, a practice that brings all of our healing into the sacred, restorative mystery of sleep. Our long journey together through the inner landscape of the heart is now drawing to a close. We began in the darkness of a sleepless night, feeling trapped by the unseen wounds of the past, a victim of a mind we could not control. We have since traveled far. We walked bravely into the heart of our own suffering, not to fight it, but to understand it. We learned that our pain was not a personal failing, but a universal human experience, and that the greatest part of our torment came not from life's first arrow, but from the second one we fired into ourselves. We met the frantic monkey of the mind and discovered, in the simple, humble rhythm of our own breath, a timeless anchor of peace. With this anchor, we found the courage to become a guest house for our most difficult feelings, learning to meet them with the boundless friendliness of Metta and the brave heart of Karuna. We looked deeply into the nature of reality and found freedom in the liberating truths of impermanence and the selfless nature of our own being. We learned to transform our poisons into medicine, to release the past through forgiveness, and to weave this awareness into the simple moments of our daily lives until we could finally come to our rest, not in fear, but in peace. If there is one single truth to carry with you from this journey, let it be this: peace is not a destination you will one day arrive at when all of your problems have been solved. It is not a prize to be won after a long and arduous battle. It is not the absence of storms in your life. Peace is an inner capacity that you can cultivate right here, right now. It is the ability to be with the totality of your life, the joy and the sorrow, the beauty and the pain, with a heart that is open, steady, and kind. It is the quiet, unshakable confidence that you can be a safe harbor for yourself, no matter how turbulent the seas may become. And the key to this sanctuary, the anchor for this harbor, is always with you. It is your breath. It is the faithful, constant companion that can, in any given moment, bring you home to the peace of the present. The path does not end here. This is a beginning. All of the tools, all of the wisdom, all of the compassion we have explored are not just ideas to be understood, but skills to be practiced. You are now your own healer. You are your own wise gardener, your own loving mother, your own compassionate friend. Be patient with yourself. The journey of healing is not a straight line. It is a spiral. There will be days of great clarity and days when the old clouds return. This is normal. This is part of the path. Your only task is to meet each moment with as much kindness and awareness as you can muster, and when you forget, to simply begin again with the very next breath. The power to heal, the power to be free, is already within you. It has been there all along. It is in your hands now. It begins with this breath.